The deadlift, the infamous king of exercises. Some say it'll turn you into a monster, that is, if it doesn't snap your back first. Lastly, it's been getting a lot of flack from not only the general population but the lifting community as well, such as when professional strongman competitor Robert Oberst came on Joe Rogan's podcast and said that he would not recommend deadlifts for anyone who doesn't need to do them for competitive purposes. Why would he say this? Whether it's right or wrong, every exercise enthusiast needs to be informed, or the deadlift could end up dead in the water. Before we go any further, we need to make it clear as to which deadlift we're referring to. There are a plethora of variations, but there's only one that needs no qualifier. The deadlift refers to the conventional deadlift. The conventional deadlift is performed with a hip-width stance and hips pushed back significantly. This flexes the hips, thus allowing the torso to drop and grab the barbell, shoulder-width apart. Then from a dead stop, you pull the bar up off the ground all the way until your body is fully extended. We'll go over it in more detail, but that's the gist. Due to its rawness, it's generally considered the hardest and toughest exercise there is. Ironically, it's also the exercise that allows you to lift the most weight. In addition, it's one of the few competitive lifts. Together with the bench press and the back squat, it's one of the 3 key exercises in powerlifting. Needless to say, thanks to all this, it's also one of the most famous exercises there is. At the same time, it's one of the most technical exercises and can take months to perform safely enough to start loading with progressively heavier weights. So what are the pros and cons here? Let's first look at why it's so hard. One major reason the deadlift is so difficult is that it starts with the concentric contraction. This means it doesn't get to benefit from the stretch shortening cycle or SSC. The SSC is a phenomenon that results in extra power. Your tendons and ligaments are stiff yet flexible and are able to store energy during the eccentric portion of a movement as they stretch, similar to a rubber band. When you transition into the concentric contraction quickly, the energy is released, aiding in moving more weight. SSC is why you automatically draw back before you throw a punch for extra power. Unfortunately, you get no such help with the deadlift, which differs from most exercises, especially using the large amount of weight it does. Now let's go through the movement and see what's going on. The setup is vital for optimal performance of the deadlift. Many people use a foot placement that's too wide. The easiest way to locate the perfect width is to jump vertically as high as you can and see where your feet naturally land. For most people, this is simply hip width apart, as this is where you're able to direct force straight down into the ground. From there, stand so the barbell is over the midfoot, which is generally an inch or so in front of the shin. Next, bend over and grab the bar with a shoulder-width grip. This will be outside your legs. Then you'll push your hips back and sit while allowing your knees to bend slightly. This bend will cause your shins to move forward and touch the bar. From here, you lift your chest up and straighten your lower back. One of the first cues to look for is your shin angle. There will be a slight angle, but it shouldn't be dramatic. It should be closer to vertical than not. This would allow the bar to travel straight upwards rather than go around the knees if they were forward. Because you only have a slight bend in your knees, your quadriceps aren't used to the same degree as other exercises, such as the back squat. In a back squat, your knees will come forward, which ultimately closes the angle in the knee joint, creating a greater range of motion that requires more knee extension. This is exactly what was found in a study that compared the back squat to the deadlift, with the deadlift experiencing significantly greater movement and work in the hip extensors, while the back squat saw more in the knee extensors. However, this doesn't mean that there's no activation in your extensors. In fact, your extensors are one of the primary muscles to get the bar off the ground, as it must push the floor away, one of our favorite deadlift cues. This was shown in a study comparing the conventional deadlift to the Romanian deadlift, where the conventional had more activation in the quadriceps. Keep in mind that when compared to the Romanian deadlift, there's more flexion in the knees as the bar must travel further down. A study that examined EMGs of muscles during the deadlift verifies this, as the quadricep muscles were more active while the knee was extending at levels of greater flexion at the beginning of the deadlift. As the knees extended more throughout the movement, the activity in the quadriceps lowered. The exact opposite happens in your hamstrings. As you rise and bring the bar to knee level, your hip flexion doesn't change too much. Rather, your posterior muscles flex in more of an isometric fashion and hold the position to keep your shoulders over the bar. Therefore, your hamstrings are at their lowest levels at takeoff and gradually rise as you ascend. We should note that we're saying their lowest levels, not low levels. In other words, all your muscles have high activation throughout the movement. It's just some places are lower and some are higher. When looking at the upper back, primarily the trapezius muscles, they follow a similar path as the hamstrings. They're at their lowest levels during the beginning of the lift and increase dramatically as the lifter ascends, tending to peak at knee level. Due to the high activation in the back during the latter part of the movement, lifters will utilize what's called a rack pull to train their backs. A rack pull or a block pull are variations where the bar is set so the bar stands around knee level. When it comes to the lower back and lumbar spine, the conventional deadlift does tend to be the most taxing, especially when using heavier weights. This is caused by the load being on a longer moment arm away from the hips. This essentially creates more torque, which places greater stress on the lower back. Regardless, your core muscles are under extreme stress throughout the movement as a means to keep the torso stable and protect the spine. This has made the trap bar deadlift attractive to coaches lately. We'll discuss why later in the video. One part where the deadlift differs from most other exercises is the lack of an eccentric contraction due to the funky biomechanics of lowering the bar safely. Rather, lifters tend to use a controlled drop to safely lower the barbell. All in all, the deadlift will stress just about every muscle in the body due to its rawness. But it isn't just the muscles that are impacted by the raw power of the deadlift, when done correctly. Did you know your bones can actually grow in size and strength just like your muscles? When excessive stress is placed on a bone, it'll bend slightly, creating tiny little fractures. Those little fractures are then filled in with what are called osteoblasts, which then form new bone. This is what happens to college-aged men and women after 24 weeks of resistance training. While the participants utilized a whole-body training program, the squat and the deadlift were specifically chosen to drive bone growth. After training, it was found that participants' bone mineral density increased on average by 1% at any given site. However, the average bone growth in men was greater and occurred anywhere from 2.7 to 7.7%. In women, the range was lower, at negative 0.8 to 1.5%. Now let's talk about every new lifter's most pressing question. Do deadlifts wreck your back? Yes, you can get injured performing deadlifts, but it's probably not as bad as you think. Overall, weightlifting has a rate of injury of 1 to 2 injuries per athlete per year and 2 to 4 injuries per 1,000 hours of training exposure. Compare this to male soccer players' experience at a rate of 8.1 per every 1,000 hours. When it comes to the type of exercises that cause injury, deadlifts are overrepresented, but they tend to differ by type of training. For example, it's one of the top 3 injuries for powerlifters, but not seen in the top injuries for bodybuilders. There's a very clear association between serious deadlift injuries and those who use heavier loads. Now, while we always want to hear about the dangers of deadlifting, we rarely hear the flip side. It actually helps protect the body. As we mentioned earlier, the deadlift is a powerful exercise to train your posterior chain. This not only includes building a strong, powerful core, but it also improves the functionality of these posterior muscles. At the same time, it can actually reduce the pain in your lower back. A review examined the available literature on deadlifts being used in therapy programs for lower back pain. Deadlifts were found to decrease pain, improve function, and increase quality of life in patients with lower back pain. For example, one of the studies reviewed saw a 72% improvement in pain, a 76% improvement in disability, and a 27% improvement in quality of life. That is pretty amazing. So let's talk equipment. Wrist straps are often associated with a deadlift. Why is that? Essentially, using wrist straps heavily mitigates the amount of force your grip must produce to hold the bar by attaching the load to your wrists. This is critical as everyone gets to a point where their deadlift performance is limited by their grip strength. With straps, you can simply worry about lifting as much weight as possible as your grip is taken out of the equation. This is estimated to be about 20 to 30% more than without straps. This much load places a significant amount of more work on all your muscles, minus the forearms. Another interesting variable is that wearing straps increases time under tension, or TUT. TUT refers to the amount of time a muscle is actually working and how long a rep takes you. It's been found to be a significant factor in improving both strength and muscle growth. As the wrist straps allowed a heavier load, the reps actually take longer to complete. So not only are you able to lift heavier loads, straps can increase TUT, thus magnifying the amount of fatigue and stress placed on the body. Sure, some people abuse straps, using them to cover for poor grip. However, when used strategically, they're able to significantly improve your deadlift, thus adding muscle and strength. One thing we know for sure is that the deadlift generates more fatigue. Well, actually, maybe not. This is something that caught us off guard. The deadlift is notorious for being draining. After a good deadlift session, it's fair to say it feels like you've been hit by a truck. When speaking about fatigue, there are two types: central fatigue and peripheral fatigue. Central fatigue is fatigue that tires the central nervous system, or the CNS. This is the fatigue that makes you feel mentally exhausted. It may even present itself with strength loss, yet no soreness. Peripheral fatigue is physical fatigue. This is when mentally you feel fine and have normal levels of energy, however your muscles are tired or even sore. Like when stairs become a torture device after leg day. Well, a study from 2019 put the squat up against the deadlift and had participants lift 95% of their 1 rep max for 2 reps. Your 1 RM is the maximum amount of weight you can lift for 1 repetition. Therefore, 95% 1 RM is very close to your max. Fatigue levels were measured, and they found that central fatigue was the same for both exercises, while peripheral fatigue was greater in the squat. Another study from 2019 compared the fatigue levels of the squat, bench press, and deadlift when training 4 sets to failure using 80% of 1 rep max. That is, they performed as many reps as they could. They then measured numerous variables including limb swelling, joint range of motion, delayed onset muscle soreness, average concentric velocity (ACV) at 70% of 1 rep max, creatine kinase, lactate dehydrogenase, and cell-free DNA or cfDNA. Even with all the variables, the deadlift did not present a greater amount of muscle damage or need for longer recovery time. This may be due to there being a lack of an eccentric phase, as it's known to cause a greater amount of muscle damage. It may also have something to do with the effort when not in a laboratory setting. Generally speaking, people will try harder with the deadlift. Lifters are much more likely to push themselves past their limit, as nothing happens if a lift is missed, assuming there's no injury. Lifters are more likely to push farther. Compare that to a bench or squat, where the load is directly over your body. You may not be so keen to do another set with added weight, with that much weight over you that can pin you down if you fail to lift the weight. One other reason may be due to using volume training. Perhaps things are different when training for max lifts. Regardless, this tells us that if you follow a structured program and actually follow it, not go off and try to set new PRs every session, you know who you are, you shouldn't have to worry about being beat the next day. So, the majority of this video has been referring to the conventional deadlift. However, many of you are probably interested in the other deadlift, the legendary sumo deadlift. If you're not as familiar with the sumo deadlift, aka sumo, here's a quick description. The sumo gets its name as it resembles the ready stance of a sumo wrestler. You know, where you bend down in an ultra-wide stance with the torso straight up and clap your hands. In fact, that's actually a really good description of the sumo, minus the whole hand clapping. Unlike the deadlift, which has a relatively narrow stance, the stance of sumo is ultra-wide. It's excessive. While there are various factors that determine the proper width, it's generally around 1.5 to 2 times your hip width. Your legs are then externally rotated so your toes are pointing outward. As your stance is so wide, you'll grab the bar with your hands straight down between your legs. Since your legs are rotated externally, your hips won't be pushed back as far from the body as you sit back. Rather, they come down closer to your legs. Also, to be able to grab the bar, you must also bring your hips lower as the torso is more upright. As a result, the hips need significantly greater mobility to perform sumo deadlifts. As the hips are closer to the body, the torso is significantly more upright to keep your arms over the barbell. The degree will depend on the person's measurements, but it's not uncommon to see some lifters with an almost totally vertical torso. And it's here where we see the major differences between sumo and conventional. The upright torso means less flexion in the hips, which mitigates the involvement of the hamstrings and places a greater percentage on the quads. For this reason, although it is still called the sumo deadlift, it's actually quite different from the conventional deadlift as it's quadricep dominant. You may have heard sumo get a lot of flack from a certain group of lifters, things like being called a fake deadlift or a cheat variation. This refers to the smaller amount of distance the bar travels as the legs are spread so wide, thus shortening the height at lockout. While we don't think it's a cheat version, there is some truth to that claim. A 3-dimensional kinetic analysis of sumo and conventional style deadlifts found the bar travels 20 to 25% farther during the conventional pull, which results in 25 to 30% less mechanical work in the sumo. However, when looking at the two lifts, the conventional tends to be the heavier one out of the two. Therefore, neither is easier or harder, it just depends on the biomechanics of the individual. One plus of the sumo is the torso is vertical, placing less stress on the spine. This makes it an attractive option for those with injured backs. But that's not all. Let's hop into a quick lightning round of other variations. The deficit deadlift is performed by standing on a short object, usually 2 to 4 inches high, which increases the distance the bar needs to travel. This also greatly increases knee flexion, which requires a much greater amount of activation and work from the quadriceps. Performance-wise, they're great for those with trouble getting the load off the ground. Romanian deadlift isn't actually a deadlift, as it starts with the eccentric contraction, and the load never touches the ground. Anyhow, it's an awesome accessory to any program. The Romanian deadlift targets the posterior muscles while mitigating the use of the quads, making it great to isolate the hamstrings and the glutes. We spoke of the trap bar deadlift earlier in the video, and here we are now. In a trap bar deadlift, the lifter stands in the middle of a hexagonal-shaped bar and holds onto handles out to their sides. This places the force directly in line with the legs, allowing true vertical displacement, which also allows a more vertical torso, mitigating more stress on the lower back. There's also another advantage. No bar in front of the shins allows a lifter to modify their stance to target different muscles. It lets the knees come forward to hit the quads or keep them back, similar to a conventional deadlift, to target the hamstrings. And of course, here's what you've all been waiting for. Here's how to most effectively use the deadlift. As it's the heaviest movement you can do, it should always be the first exercise of the day. This is especially true for the deadlift, as you don't want to be fatigued when you start training it to keep good form. We see the deadlift as being a pure strength movement, so you should generally use heavier loads, 85% of your 1-rep max, with fewer reps, less than 6. Remember, execution is technical, so doing too many reps can build fatigue, increasing your chance of injury. On top of that, be sure to take a little pause between each rep. A good setup is vital for safe performance, so you should take the time to make the needed adjustments between each rep. Moving too fast through a set can throw your body out of position and increase your chance of injury. Before you actually begin each rep, you want to get the slack out of the bar. This refers to removing any in the bar and pulling it tight as it catches the weight. Pull this slack out and get your body tight. Getting your body tight properly starts with pulling up against the weight of the bar. You're not pulling the weight off the ground just yet, but allowing the weight to let you pull up the bar. Now, you'll get your shoulders back to keep a straight back. This should get your legs, back, and arms tight. Then you'll brace your core by performing what's known as the Valsalva maneuver. The Valsalva maneuver is where you close your airway out and exhale out. This will increase your intra-abdominal pressure. This creates a stronger core to protect your spine. Start each rep smoothly. Don't try to jerk the load off the ground. Think if you had a rope tied to a tree and yourself, and you start sprinting away, you're going to get snapped back when the line catches. Same thing here. So again, get the slack out and pull firm but smoothly. As you begin each rep, think about pushing the floor away rather than pulling the bar up. This causes the lifter to utilize your quadriceps to a greater degree. At the same time, lifters tend to keep their back pulled back more. As you descend, don't bounce the weight. That refers to dropping the weight quickly onto the ground, which causes the weight to bounce off the ground, making a succession of reps easier. Again, this can increase the chance of injury while taking out work, which defeats the point of the deadlift. Some athletes will use a bounce in a competition as they're trying to get more reps to win, but this is completely different from the goals of training. The conventional deadlift is an amazing exercise. The deadlift variations are amazing exercises. The deadlift is simply amazing. Much of the bad rap it's received is due to improper technique or progression. If trained properly in a structured program, the deadlift will be the most powerful exercise in your arsenal. Not to mention, it's actually going to make you injury-proof by building a strong, formidable core. And if you are injured or have mobility issues or special needs, there's a variation to meet your needs. While you don't have to perform deadlifts, it could very well be the best if you've got the drive and dedication to master it. Maybe you want to up your cardio game, build muscle, or simply live a healthier lifestyle. But whatever the reason, the result is the same. You want to start working out. Great job! But what happens to our muscles when we work out, especially during strength-based training? And what happens to our bodies as we build muscle mass? Can testosterone really help you build muscle mass? And will some warm-up stretches actually hurt your muscles more than help? Fear not, fellow gym goers, as we have the answers. Today on the Infographic Show, we're answering the question, what really happens to your muscles during a workout? Let's start with the basics. Muscles 101. The human body has 3 types of muscles: cardiac, smooth, and skeletal. The cardiac muscle makes up the heart's wall, responsible for the heart's contractions. This is how we have blood pumping through it. Smooth muscles form the wall of the intestine, uterus, blood vessels, and internal muscles of the eye. Right now, we're focusing on the third type of muscle, the skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles make up the majority of your muscles, and they're around 30 to 40% of your total body mass. So it goes without saying it's important to take good care of them if you want to live a healthy, happy life. Skeletal muscles are attached to your bones by tendons, which are tough bands of fibrous connective tissue. And if you break one, whoo boy, you're gonna have a bad time. You've probably heard of trainers or exercise enthusiasts talk about shoulder muscles, hamstrings, abdominal muscles. All of those are skeletal muscles. They're composed of thread-like myofibrils and sarcomeres that come together as muscle fiber. Motor neurons communicate to your muscles when to contract, and the better those signals are at telling the muscles to contract, the stronger a person can get. And there are a lot of skeletal muscles in the body. There are at least over 650 named skeletal muscles, although that number might even go up to 840. Why is it so unclear? Well, the dissension comes from how to count complex muscles. The biceps brachii is one of those complex muscles that's difficult to categorize. It has two heads and two different origins, but they insert on the radial tuberosity. Therefore, doctors and scientists argue whether to count it as one muscle or two. The science of good exercise can be surprisingly complex in that way. When you exercise, you're forcing your muscle fibers to contract and stretch repeatedly. Muscle contraction is when the muscles tighten, shorten, and lengthen during physical activity. It can happen when you do something as simple as pick up something or stretch. After the muscle contracts, it returns to its normal state of muscle relaxation. When your muscles contract, they offer stability for your joints and connective tissue. Sometimes your muscles will contract involuntarily. Our body needs our muscles to contract in order to be able to move. It also produces heat to maintain your body temperature, hence why you heat up so much during exercise. Did you know that around 40% of your body's temperature converts into muscle movement? One prime example is that whenever someone feels cold, they might shiver. It's your body's way of activating your skeletal muscles to help warm you up. Your muscles also help you maintain your posture, which can be as simple as standing up or sitting down. Your muscles do a lot in day-to-day life, so what are they doing when you hit the bench press or the elliptical? First, let's talk about the different ways that muscles contract. The first is isometric or stationary contraction. The muscle contracts, but the length doesn't change and it doesn't really go anywhere. During isometric exercises, the joint also doesn't move. It can be used to help build strength, but it's not the most efficient way to go about it. Two examples of isometric exercises would be a leg lift or a plank. Since you don't move during these exercises, it'll only improve your muscle strength in that one position. The second is concentric, which is when the muscle gets shorter. It's the one we're most used to. One example of a concentric contraction is the upward movement you perform during a bicep curl. The third is eccentric, where the muscle gets longer as the tension is produced, like when you're lowering your arm during a bicep curl. When your muscle contracts during a workout, it causes tiny tears within the muscle fibers, and the size of those tiny tears in the muscle varies based on the intensity of your workout. That's what causes that sore feeling after you worked out. Your body is getting to work repairing those muscles. If this is causing you to freak out about your exercise habits, don't panic about tearing your muscles. These tears are absolutely normal and are essential to building muscle. It's only a problem if you overexercise. Overexertion can lead to much larger tears and injuries like muscle strain. But don't worry, as long as you don't overdo it and get plenty of rest, those small muscle tears your body's repairing are actually what causes the muscles to grow and get bigger as you rest. And that's why I'm so happy about the sponsor of today's video, because it's something you can actually do during those downtimes while you're taking a break from working your body, and instead work your mind. I'm collaborating with a gamified learning app, Habby Academy, which is the perfect way to become smarter and more productive during your downtime. They've made learning into games that you'll actually want to play, and there's something for virtually any topic you're interested in, from history to geography, biology, and more. We've been working with them to create a game that goes even further into how the muscles inside your body work. So when you're finished with this video, be sure to use my link in the description to download Habby Academy for yourself. It's free to try, so what are you waiting for? But as we were saying, the duration and intensity influence the effect it has on your body. Endurance training can make your muscles stronger and less likely to wear out. That means focusing on things like running or cycling. It can help enlarge your heart for better blood flow too. It can help you increase lung capacity, improve your metabolism, and buff your coordination. That being said, if you're looking to build muscle through aerobic exercise or cardio, you're barking up the wrong tree. For those of you hitting the gym who want to build up your muscles, look for a sign that says strength training. That's where you need to go. It's strength training that will help lead to muscle building if that's your health goal. If you can't afford to head to the gym, you can easily do this alone and in the comfort of your own home. All you need is repetitive resistance exercises. You can use weights, resistance bands, or even your own body weight. You'll be able to force your muscles to contract and increase the contractile filaments within your muscle. Sometimes you can even use certain forms of swimming to help build muscle as long as it involves resistance against the water. Your muscle size will increase if you continue to challenge your muscles to deal with higher levels of resistance or weight. This is known as muscle hypertrophy, which occurs when the fibers of muscles sustain damage or injury. It can help improve muscle endurance, build muscle mass, burn fat, and build strength. As the body repairs the damage, it increases the mass and the size of the muscle. This might be the one time your doctor will recommend tearing something. Just be sure not to go overboard with it. Hormones like testosterone can also stimulate muscle growth. They can improve how the body processes proteins, stimulate anabolic hormones, and activate satellite cells, a type of stem cell that helps muscle development. Strength and resistance training can help with the release of growth hormone from the pituitary gland. It can also stimulate testosterone release, which will encourage muscle growth, and it improves the sensitivity of the muscles to testosterone. Once you finish exercising and cool down, your body will return to homeostasis. The amount of time you need to recover depends on how intense and how long your workout is. It can also be impacted by your underlying physical fitness or how accustomed your body is to exercise. On top of all that, a working knowledge of satellite cells is important for discussing what happens to muscles during exercise. So let's look a little deeper into just what satellite cells are. Satellite cells are myogenic stem cells that help with muscle regeneration. They're located between the external lamina and the sacrolemma, the transparent tubular sheath around the fibers of the skeletal muscles. We talked about creating tears in the muscles while working out, but what happens after that? It's the satellite cells that repair those tears in the muscles. They replicate, mature, and fuse to your damaged muscle fibers. This allows them to form a new muscle protein strand. During this process, your muscles will increase in size and strength. But is the process created equal across all people? A study revealed that there are moderate responders and extreme responders when it comes to muscle growth. Modest responders with about 28% muscle growth were found to have about 19% activation in their satellite cells. Extreme responders who saw 58% myofiber hypertrophy had 23% activation in their satellite cells. In the study, there was also a group of people who were labeled as non-responders, who had 0% growth and 0% activation in their satellite cells. But how do you get those satellite cells to activate so that you'll increase your muscle growth? That's where muscle tension, muscle damage, and metabolic stress occur. Muscle tension can be the act of lifting progressively heavier weights. The tension helps change the chemistry of the muscle, which helps along the process of activating these satellite cells. Muscle damage releases inflammatory molecules and immune system cells. Those are what help activate the satellite cells. You'll know you've had metabolic stress if you've ever felt a burning sensation after an exercise. Metabolic stress causes cell swelling around the muscle. This contributes to muscle growth, but it won't necessarily increase the size of your muscle cells. This is known as sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. While it can make your muscles look larger, it won't necessarily increase your actual strength. It'll be all looks and no substance. After a workout, one of the best things you can do is allow your muscles to recover. But what can you do to help further along your recovery time? Rest up, of course. You'll want to get more sleep for starters. Your heart will have a chance to rest up as you sleep. This gives your cells time to grow and your muscles time to repair. So maybe try getting a bit more sleep after a workout, especially an intense one. Make sure you eat well. You may have heard from a doctor or personal trainer how important a balanced diet is to your health and longevity, and they weren't lying. Eating well is the key to muscle recovery. Protein helps rebuild muscle fibers, while carbohydrates restore depleted glycogen levels. Glycogen is a form of glucose. Glucose is one of the main sources of energy for your body. When your body doesn't need to use the glucose you're eating immediately, it'll store it in your muscles and liver. So while there's a lot of hype around low-carb diets, your body needs carbohydrates to help you form glucose and glycogen. The process of your body turning glucose into glycogen is known as glycogenesis. Doctors recommend a diet rich in antioxidants, complex carbohydrates, and lean protein to help build muscle. These can help make the right changes to your body between workouts and give it the strength it needs to keep improving. Staying hydrated will also help with muscle repair, especially during hot weather or in a sweaty environment like a gym. Your body will lose a lot of water through your sweat and breathing. If you're dehydrated, your muscles won't be able to repair themselves as efficiently, and that's why you'll need plenty of drinking water. Even minor dehydration can have a negative impact on muscle performance and function. If your muscles are dehydrated, you increase the risk of injury. You need to hydrate so that your muscles are lubricated. When they aren't lubricated, they're not able to contract properly. Dry muscles can make you feel fatigued too, and it doesn't just impact your athletic performance, it can negatively impact your regular everyday movements as well. There are several signs your body gives you that you are dehydrated. A dry mouth, lips, or eyes can indicate you haven't been getting enough water. Headaches, feeling tired, and dry skin are also signs of dehydration. Prolonged dehydration is particularly worrisome. If you notice the signs of severe dehydration, you want to find medical help. This can include hot, red, dry skin, nausea, seizures, a loss of cognitive abilities, hallucinations, dizziness, loss of consciousness, lack of sweating, and a body temperature higher than 103 degrees. It can potentially help to drink tart cherry juice. Tart cherry juice has a lot of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory polyphenol compounds. It helps lessen pain and it quickens strength recovery. Not all studies agree that cherry juice helps as much as some research suggests, but if you do enjoy drinking cherry juice, it might still be nice to incorporate it into your routine. Just make sure to drink plenty of water along with it. If cherry juice isn't for you, you can feel secure knowing that just drinking water is fine. Hydration is the ultimate goal to help with recovery. If you had an intense workout, you might want to give yourself a few days to recover and let your muscles heal as well. If you work out daily, it might be best to start with light workouts as you build your muscle strength. If you're feeling sore after a workout, you can do quite a few things to help relieve the discomfort. Make sure you always stretch before and after a workout. Stretching before your workout will help reduce the risk of injury and may help reduce soreness afterward. It'll help your muscles loosen up and increase your range of motion while working out. When you stretch after you work out, you're engaging in maintenance stretches. It'll decrease soreness, move lactic acid out of your muscles, and help your blood flow return to normal. All of this aids your body in recovery, and it can help lessen how sore you feel after. However, an important note you may not have known about is that dynamic stretches are the most effective. These are stretches that entail compound movements, otherwise known as keeping yourself mobile while you stretch. Think lunges, air squats, and hip circles. Static stretching, just stretching out your body parts while standing still, has actually been proven to have negative effects on the body. Experts have discovered that it can lead to fatigue and even muscle damage if overused. But let's say you have damaged your muscles and you want to get better. How would you go about doing that, you're probably wondering? Low-intensity and low-impact exercise that encourages blood flow can also help in muscle recovery. Dr. Nicole Belkin, an orthopedic surgeon at New York Presbyterian at Columbia University Irving Medical Center, states, if you're feeling fatigued from strength training, engage in a lower-intensity cardiovascular bike ride or walk, which enables your body to circulate waste products caused by the rigorous activity. Something as simple as yoga can be used to help in muscle recovery. Aside from rest, hydration, and stretching, there are a few things you can do to help with soreness. Ice can help reduce inflammation, or heat can be used to increase blood flow to your muscles. This can be just taking a warm shower or bath. Some people enjoy taking Epsom salt baths to help relax muscles and loosen joints. Studies on Epsom salt haven't proven it can help, but it also doesn't hurt. So if you enjoy a nice warm Epsom salt bath, let yourself enjoy it. At the very least, the warm water should help soothe your sore muscles. But at the end of the day, the best thing for your body after a workout, easy to intense, is just let yourself rest and drink plenty of water. As exercise stops and we enter the cool-down period, our bodies gradually return to homeostasis, and normal operation is resumed. Recovery time depends on the intensity, type, and duration of the exercise, as well as your underlying physical fitness. It can also be dependent on age. Children, teenagers, and older adults often require more post-workout recovery than young or middle-aged adults. People new to exercising or just out of shape in general might also need more time to recover from working out. They may even want to engage in passive recovery to repair their muscles and rebuild energy, like sleeping and drinking plenty of water. However, just because you're fit doesn't mean you won't need plenty of recovery time. If you're used to more intense workouts, you'll need to let your body rest and recover from them. For example, let's say you go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, and you're mixing high-intensity workouts, cross-training routines, and active recovery days. You'll most definitely want to take 2 to 3 days off to really recover. Regardless of who you are or where you are in your health journey, rest is as important as training itself, as this is where the muscles are rebuilt and grow back bigger. Pushing yourself might be important to achieve your goals, but pushing too far will have the opposite effect. Recovery looks different for everyone, so be sure to show yourself kindness as well. For someone who is an elite marathon runner, they might be able to engage with a 4 or a 5-mile run as an active recovery workout. Someone who isn't as experienced may want to focus on something less strenuous, like a 20-minute cycling or jogging session. It's been a long time since you worked out. You had every intention of getting off your computer chair, going to the gym, but those infographic show videos are just so darn interesting. However, after we tell you what exactly exercising does to your body, you'll have all the motivation you need. First, there will be a little pain as your body tears itself apart, but over time your muscles will repair and you'll get stronger, happier, and healthier. But make sure you stay with us all the way to the end of the video because too much exercise can be a matter of life or death. You definitely want to know how much is too much and what detrimental effects over-exercising can have on your body. We're going to start with day 1 of working out. Whether it's been a few months since you've gone to the gym or a few years, the day you start exercising is the day your body starts to transform into the best version of itself. But this will be a long process full of ups and downs. In order to understand what's about to happen to your muscles and cells, we'll need to know what exercise does to your body. You step into the gym and take a deep breath of air filled with the smells of sweat and rubber mats. You scan the room to find an area that isn't near anyone else so you have all the space you need. You pick up some different sized weights and get to work. In between exercises, you do a little cardio. As you begin to sweat, there is a slight burn in the muscles being used, but this is normal and important process that will make you stronger. Your body shifts the flow of blood from areas like your digestive system to your skeletal muscles. Signals from the brain and hormones from your endocrine system tell your body to start converting stored sugars in fat and carbohydrates to glucose for energy production. As your muscles are put under strain, they release lactic acid that builds up and drops the pH in that area of the body. This causes cramps and muscle fatigue, which cues your mind that you can't do any more reps and it's time for a break. Don't worry though, after a little rest, your body will metabolize the lactic acid and you'll be able to continue your workout. Your brain begins creating neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin that allows it to make more connections between brain cells, which aids in the movement of body parts. Without these increased connections, you'd be falling all over yourself as you tried to do burpees or jump rope. Working out takes a lot of coordination, and it's for this reason that the brain becomes incredibly active during exercise. The harder you exercise, the faster your heart starts beating as a result of rising adrenaline levels in your body. At the same time, the capillaries in all your muscles expand, allowing for greater blood flow. This allows nutrients and oxygen to reach your cells where energy production is in overdrive. The muscles in your midsection, which allow you to breathe by causing your diaphragm to expand and contract, work even harder to bring more oxygen into your lungs. As your cells generate more and more energy and your muscles work harder than they have in a long time, your body temperature increases. Your sweat glands release fluid to help it cool down and maintain homeostasis. This is one of the reasons why you feel so thirsty as you exercise. Sweat causes the body to lose water, which can lead to dehydration. So it's important to replenish your H2O supply by drinking water throughout your workout routine. You're hoping that by the time you're done, you'll be ripped. But that's not how it works. After an hour of working out, you collapse from exhaustion. As you lay on the floor, your breathing begins to slow and your heart rate decreases. You try to stand up, but you can't move. Your body's still metabolizing the lactic acid that's built up in your muscles. But if you think you're sore now, just wait until the next day. When you finally manage to get your muscles working again and stand up, you realize you now feel dizzy, and your reaction time is a little slow. This is natural, as the body is still trying to return its numerous functions from a high state of stress and awareness to normal levels. It takes a toll not only on the cardiovascular system, but on your nervous system as well. The heightened amount of dopamine and serotonin in your bloodstream gets used up, and fewer signals are sent to the rest of the muscles as it's time to relax. Since your last workout, your body's been busy breaking down the fibers and blood vessels in your muscles since they were not being used frequently. This is one of the reasons your muscles shrink in the month after you stop exercising. But your body doesn't just do this to make you feel weak and pathetic. The reason it breaks down muscle fibers is to help conserve energy in parts of the body that aren't being used often. Your body requires a lot of energy just to keep you alive. So anytime energy can be conserved, it takes advantage of the situation. Because of your previous lifestyle that lacked exercise, your body needs to work especially hard to get blood and nutrients where they're needed, as there just aren't many pathways and blood vessels to your muscles as there should be. And this doesn't affect the muscles in your arms and legs. Your heart and lungs have also been working much harder than they have been in a long time. However, even though this first workout session was brutal, everything is about to get easier, and your body will change drastically as the result of repetitive exercise. The downside is that while you were exercising, you were also tearing apart what little muscle fibers you have. They will grow back stronger and your cells will multiply, but this process is going to be painful, take time, and require a lot of energy. When you go to bed the night after your first exercise session, you might find that you fall asleep faster and sleep better than you have in a long time. This is because your body does a lot of repairs while you sleep. While energy levels are low for the parts of the body that allow you to move and remain alert, your body can focus on using its energy to repair itself. While you're fast asleep, your cells are hard at work dividing, improving fluid distribution, and restructuring your muscle fibers to aid in growth and strength. When you wake up the next day, you stare at the ceiling and pray for death, as everything aches. It's natural, and it means your body's doing what it's supposed to by fixing itself while also building up your muscles. You won't see any physical changes to your body, but you will definitely feel them as aches and pains. But you're strong, you could power through it. The damage and new growth to your body happens at the microscopic level. You're likely going to be sore for several days, and the way to reduce the pain is probably not what you're expecting. You will definitely need to rest your body, but it's also important that you continue to push through the discomfort and exercise again. By keeping your muscles active, you will provide them with more blood flow and nutrients. This will aid in the restoration process. You'll also need to stretch before and after every workout session to make sure you aren't just damaging your muscles, but making them more pliable and flexible. This will help them grow and allow for a wider range of motion. If you're in severe pain and can't move after a day of exercising, you did too much and went too hard. Give your body time to recover, then try again with a less intense workout regimen once you feel better. Even after a day of exercise, your body's resting metabolic rate will increase slightly. This is because it's using more energy than normal to repair damaged muscle cells. In order to get the energy it needs, your body will pull from any stores of fats that can be broken down to produce glucose. Some studies have found that 45 minutes of intense exercise can increase your metabolism by up to 40% for 14 hours after you finish working out. But there's something incredibly unexpected that'll happen after you start exercising. Even though your body requires more energy to repair your muscles, you will actually feel a drop in your appetite. It seems counterintuitive, but it's the increase of certain hormones that help the body recover that causes appetite suppression as a side effect. This doesn't mean you won't feel hungry at all, it just means you might not eat as much as you normally do. This is great if you're trying to lose weight, which is why most medical professionals recommend supplementing almost all diets with exercise. The soreness, faster metabolism, and suppressed appetite will continue through your first week of exercising. But what happens after that? When can you expect to see a six-pack and biceps of steel? 1 week after you start working out, your body will begin to feel better overall. If you're still waking up with pain after an exercise session, it might mean you need to slow down just a bit. But after a full week of this new exercise-filled lifestyle, most of the pains and aches should subside. Not only are your muscles growing at this point, but your brain is changing as well. Researchers have found that your body releases endorphin hormones which send pleasure signals to your brain when you work out. This fundamentally changes the way you think about exercising. After a week of consistently actively working out, your brain might begin to connect the activity with receiving endorphins. This is one reason why people who exercise regularly report feeling happier after they complete their workout. But the longer you keep up your exercise routine, the more beneficial physical and mental health effects will develop, as you will later find out in this video. Unfortunately, after a week of exercising, it's unlikely you'll see any noticeable physical changes to your body. This is where people start to falter in their exercise routine. It is a difficult mental hurdle to overcome, but the long-term benefits will definitely make it worth it. Since you've been working so hard, it's only natural to want to see results. But it's just too soon for your body to have repaired and built up enough muscle for the change to be visible. However, you will feel more rested due to getting a better night's sleep, and you probably have lost a pound or two, but you were expecting more noticeable results. As long as you can push past the disappointment and finish out the first few weeks of exercising, the next things that happen to your body will most definitely be noticeable. After 1 month of going from a sedentary lifestyle to exercising consistently, you'll notice that your strength and stamina have improved. You might not be at your final goal yet, but you've come a long way from that first workout session. There are now more muscle cells and fibers throughout your body, which will not only make your muscles more defined, but you're probably doing more reps, lifting heavier weights, and able to lengthen your cardio routine. You'll also notice that your body takes less time to recover after workout. This is because not only are your skeletal muscles getting bigger, but your heart has become stronger as well. It allows for more blood and oxygen and nutrients to be pumped around your body more efficiently. And something even crazier is happening at the cellular level. The mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. It's these organelles that turn sugar and oxygen into energy. As more cells are created to allow your muscles to grow, more mitochondria are being produced in each cell. The more mitochondria you have, the more energy can be produced. This will aid in your exercise routine, as well as the growing of new cells and repairing of damaged muscle cells. Just by exercising regularly for a week, your body will feel less tired in general because your cells are more actively converting sugars to energy. Most of the strength gains you feel during your first few weeks of working out are a result of your brain being able to use your muscles more efficiently. Now that you've built up more fibers in your muscles and your brain knows what to expect during an exercise session, your balance and ability to complete your routines becomes almost second nature. Your muscles are definitely getting stronger, but up until that first month of working out consistently, it's mostly your brain using what you have more efficiently that makes each session easier. Your muscles are now able to store carbohydrates and use them as a source of energy when needed. With each good night's rest after working out for the past month, your body has grown more and more muscle fibers and blood vessels that allow for better blood flow. This increased blood flow is not just happening in your skeletal muscles, but in all parts of your body. This means your heart is pumping blood more efficiently and able to recover more quickly after an intense workout. You might also find that your resting heart rate is lower than it was before you started your new exercise routine, which can improve blood pressure and reduce stress levels. Life is good now. Your body's definitely running more efficiently, and you're starting to notice a little bit of toning in your muscles. But there's another less attractive side effect that you notice when you work out as well. You seem to be sweating more than normal. This is actually a good thing. It means your body's become better at regulating your internal temperature. The excess sweat is your body's way of thermoregulating itself, so you can go harder for longer. So embrace that salty taste of sweat as it drips from your face. It's all part of your body's plan to keep you healthy and make you stronger. 3 months after you start exercising, you'll finally see the physical changes you've been waiting for. Your muscles are now more defined. The amount of stored fat you have has been reduced as your body breaks it down to repurpose the molecules into making more muscle cells and energy. Depending on what your goal is, you might actually gain weight. If you wanted to build muscle and you were already at a healthy weight, you might put on a few pounds. As the larger your muscles become, the more you'll weigh. Also, at this point, your brain has been programmed to look forward to and even crave your workout sessions. The positive reinforcement that comes with the endorphins released during exercise has become a normal part of your day. And if you don't work out, you oftentimes don't feel as good. This is because your brain and body still expect the influx of hormones that comes with exercising. 1 year after you started working out, you might barely recognize yourself. You may have started an exercise routine before, but never made it this far. A year is a long time to keep up with exercising, as life can throw a wrench in your plans, but you've done it, and your body thanks you. Your muscle strength and endurance are much higher. On top of being stronger, you'll likely be more flexible and have less back and joint pain. This is because with regular exercise, your muscle fibers have become more elastic and stronger. Exercising also has a positive impact on bone growth, which is one of the reasons your joints also feel better as well. But the best part about making it this far are the things you can't see. Since your heart is stronger and more healthy, you've reduced your risk of developing heart disease and stroke. Also, since you've been maintaining a healthy weight, you're less likely to become obese or develop diseases such as type 2 diabetes. Even if you have a cheat meal every now and then, your body can handle the extra nutrients and just uses them as fuel during your next workout sessions. You shouldn't be eating fast food all the time, but a year's worth of exercise does mean you are likely able to eat more than you used to if you want to maintain a healthy weight. Research also shows that exercising regularly reduces the symptoms of stress, depression, and anxiety. This most likely has to do with an increase in certain pleasure hormones that happens as a result of working out. Also, some studies have provided evidence that exercising regularly over several years can actually cause the brain's hippocampus to grow in size. So not only are your skeletal muscles getting bigger, but your brain might be as well. However, can too much of a good thing be bad for you? Or in other words, can you over-exercise? The answer to that question is yes. So, how much is too much and what can happen? Everyone is different, so the amount of exercise one person can handle might be very different than what you can handle. It's okay. It just means you need to listen to what your body's telling you. If you collapse and can't move for hours after a workout, that might mean you've overdone it. Likewise, if you're always in pain or aching after your workout, even months into exercising, it means something is wrong and you should modify your routine. But what happens to your body when you exercise too much? If you push your muscles too hard for too long, you can develop chronic muscle fatigue. Your body will feel heavy and your heart will have trouble recovering and returning to its normal rhythm. This is dangerous because too much strain on your heart can lead to a heart attack. Overworking your muscles can also lead to a rare condition called rhabdomyolysis. Your muscle fibers begin to break down and leak into your blood. If this continues, the fibers can end up in the heart and kidney, causing these major organs to fail. So in this circumstance, overexercising can actually be fatal. Another side effect of working your body too hard is that your sleep suffers. Your body uses the time you're asleep to repair itself. But if there's too much damage, this can cause pain that keeps you awake. The hormones in your body might become so out of balance that it results in insomnia. If you don't sleep enough, your body can't recover, which exacerbates the problems in the healing process even further. And even when you are asleep, your body might not be able to increase blood flow or produce enough human growth hormone to repair all the damage that it's done. If you found yourself restless at night and not getting enough sleep, it might be time to dial back the exercising a bit. Experts recommend that doing high-intensity training for short periods of time might help reset the body and allow for your sleeping patterns to return to normal. Then you can ramp up your exercise regimen once again while monitoring your body to make sure you don't overdo it. But sleep deprivation from overexercising isn't the only thing throwing your internal balance out of whack. When you exercise the appropriate amount, your body uses up stress hormones such as cortisol and adrenaline that are circulating in your blood. These molecules are necessary for normal life functions. However, by exercising consistently, you're keeping them at low levels, which in turn reduces the amount of anxiety and stress you feel. The problem with overexercising is that it has the reverse effect. With too much exercise, your body is constantly being strained, which means stress hormones are dumped into your bloodstream. This can then cause stress and anxiety levels to increase drastically. Cortisol also plays a role in helping insulin regulate glucose levels in your body. However, when cortisol levels are too high, your liver continuously releases glucose, which could lead to your cells developing insulin resistance. This means glucose levels will be too high in the blood, and your body will begin storing it as fat. If insulin resistance persists, it can lead to type 2 diabetes, and all your hard work will become detrimental to your health. On top of all this, it's unlikely that your body will be able to get enough nutrients and generate enough energy to repair all the damage done to your muscles and make you stronger. So, exercising too much actually ends up making you weaker over time. If your body needs more nutrients than you can provide it with, energy production slows and you feel tired and fatigued. Nutrient deficiency connected to overexercising has been linked to numerous other side effects such as hair loss, bone pain, and vision problems. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, it's time to drastically reduce the amount of exercise you're doing and give your body the time it needs to recover. Oh, and maybe see your doctor. You might also realize that not only does your body hurt from working out, but that you feel like you're getting sick more often. This is because overexercising can reduce the effectiveness of your immune system. This might have something to do with the body using an extreme amount of resources to repair the damage being done to your muscles. According to the Journal of Applied Physiology, your body experiences a period of immunodepression when you work out. This normally isn't a problem, but when you overwork your body, this window lasts much longer than it should, which could leave you vulnerable to infections and disease. The most important thing to know about how overexercising can affect your immune system is that the more times you push your body too hard, the longer the period that your immune system is weakened becomes. If you put yourself through an extreme workout for multiple days in a row, your immune system doesn't have time to recover, which could leave you in danger of becoming sick. Like with the other side effects of overexercising, the damage to your immune system can be reversed. But it's important to recognize that if you're exhibiting symptoms of overexercising like nutrient deficiencies, sleep deprivation, and severe pain, your immune system is also suffering, and you might find yourself with a nasty infection to go along with all those other harmful effects of too much exercise. What it comes down to is that if you're planning to start exercising regularly, you start slow and work your way up to a more difficult routine. The real damage to your body comes from doing too much too quickly. A good way to find your threshold is by starting out with some high-intensity workouts for short periods of time and seeing how your body feels. It's also important to implement some cardio, even if it's just a short jog or speed walking. You never want to go from doing no exercise to lifting hundreds of pounds or trying to run a marathon because your body won't be able to take it. Listen to your body and do what it's telling you. If you work out and the next day you don't feel any soreness at all, you might want to try pushing yourself a little harder. Conversely, if you work out and you can't move the next day because you're in so much pain, you probably overdid it. You should get some rest and give your body the time it needs to recover. Then dial back your workout routine a bit. Make sure you supplement your workout with healthy foods full of nutrients and vitamins to help your body repair the damage and growth of your muscles. Also, remember how important sleep is to the restoration of your body. When you begin your new workout routine, try to get to bed early and get a good night's rest, since this is when your body carries out most of its repairs. And when you wake up sore the next day, just know that it's normal and you should try to push through it, because the more you stretch and use your muscles, the stronger they'll become. We are coming out of 2 years of lockdown, so most people are ready to shed a few COVID pounds. But what exercises are best for burning calories? Get ready to feel the burn. with our 12 best exercises for burning calories enhanced by our official infographics weight loss tips. Number 12. Hiking. Hiking is a great exercise for those who love the outdoors or if you're into urban exploring. However, don't count on it being the best for shedding pounds because it comes in pretty low on the calories per hour scale. An average hike without too many steep inclines will burn about 350 to 400 calories per hour. Add some elevation gains to that hike and you can really boost the burned calories. Another good tip is to load up a backpack with extra weight. In the military, this is called rucking, and it's great for building endurance. Infographics tip. A great way to burn extra calories on a hike is to find a large animal and make it angry. Running away from an irritated bear or a large elk can easily add hundreds of calories burned to your hiking workout. And remember the infographics rule of wildlife safety. You don't have to be faster than the bear, just faster than your slowest friend. Number 11. Jogging. One step up from hiking is jogging, which can burn between 400 and 550 calories. It doesn't really seem fair because jogging definitely feels like a lot more work than a pleasurable hike through nature. Trust us, we've checked. Now, the key to a good jog is to keep moving throughout an entire hour's worth of exercise. That's why you see people jogging in place while waiting for green lights in the city. Sure, it looks silly, but they're burning calories the entire time. And like with most exercises, the hardest thing to do is start back up when you stopped. Make sure you got good shoes because jogging is a leading source of foot injury. Or take a cue from our ancestors and just jog barefoot. But make sure you're getting treated for ringworm after. Infographics tip. The hardest part about jogging is staying motivated. So next time you're out for a jog and feeling like you're losing motivation, snatch that small dog you see. Don't worry, you're giving it back at the end of your exercise, but the owner doesn't know that, and they'll likely provide at least a few miles of motivation for you to keep jogging. Number 10. Swimming. Casual. Yes, we're talking about casual swimming, which amounts to doing some laps around the pool. An hour of slow but steady laps can burn as many calories as jogging, between 400 and 550 calories. You might need to head to the public pool though, because most backyard and apartment pools are just too small. Or if you're really hard up for moisture, you can buy one of those swimming trainers you can use at home. Treading water is also an excellent calorie burner and a fantastic way to get in shape if you can last the full hour. Infographics tip. Swimming is great for losing calories, but have you tried not drowning? Actively trying to not drown can increase the calories you burn by 200 to 300 per hour. So if you really want to feel the burn, hurl yourself into the nearest riptide or whitewater rapids and swim for your life. Number 9. Aerobic dancing. Do you like techno? Do you like dancing? No? Well, too bad, because aerobic dancing is a very efficient way to burn calories and get in shape. You could top out at almost 600 calories an hour with a vigorous aerobic dance routine. And as a plus, you might even find yourself learning some sweet new moves for the dance floor. The key to a good aerobic dance is to involve the entire body. This isn't your grandma's slow waltz we're dealing with. You're going to be kicking and flailing like Van Damme in his prime, sweating off the calories. And remember to smile. Always smile vigorously. Infographics tip. Aerobic dance is no joke. It's an intense hour-long calorie-burning session of hot-footing around like a madman. But it can be hard to stay motivated, so to keep those feet up, we recommend you douse the floor with thumbtacks. You'll be practically hopping to keep those feet up and those calories burning. Number 8. Rowing machine. Rowing a boat is hard work and an excellent calorie burner, but if you don't live in the 17th century or are a poor potato farming peasant that can't afford their own boat, you can just pick up a rowing machine for use at home. The intense upper body workout uses resistance weights or tension to simulate rowing through choppy waters, the consistency of molasses, and it pays off in spades by burning a whopping 622 calories an hour. Unlike other exercises though, rowing will help you develop better abdominal and arm definition, so couple it with a weightlifting regimen and get absolutely shredded in no time at all. Infographics tip. The biggest danger with rowing is the dull monotony of it, which can make it unappealing and unexciting, and can really start to feel like a chore. To keep it exciting, we recommend you get a real boat to row and float it just in front of a waterfall. Now you'll get all the excitement of rowing desperately for your life and a great workout. Number 7. Stationary biking. Bicycling is a great workout, absolutely melts the calories, up to 622 an hour, putting it in the range of a rowing machine for efficiency. However, by simply adding some inclines to your routine, you can dramatically increase the burn. The best thing about a stationary bicycle is that unlike a real bicycle, you can take a route with many inclines and a few declines, during which you're not burning many calories at all. Plus, you're always only minutes away from home and there's no expensive bike maintenance to perform or thieves to steal your brand new bike. Just put on one of your favorite shows and pedal your way to a slimmer waist and some seriously toned leg muscles. Infographics tip. Stationary bikes are convenient, but to really add calories to that burn, use a real bike and square tires. Number 6. Jump rope. We all did it in elementary school, and you've seen Rocky do it in pretty much all of his movies. But it turns out that our favorite school-age pastime is also one of the most efficient ways to burn calories. Jumping ropes can burn 671 calories an hour and require almost nothing in startup costs but a few bucks. It's basically the cheapest form of exercise, aside from running or jogging. Plus, jumping rope is an excellent way to build those calf muscles for all you basketball players trying to get some air. Infographics tip: scorpions. Number 5. Circuit training. Circuit training has exploded in popularity lately, and with good reason. It's a full-body workout that involves many mini exercises all rolled up into one action-packed hour of calorie-burning sweat. A typical routine will feature selections that focus on each part of the body: upper body, core and trunk, lower body, and total body. You can start off with some push-ups and bench dips and move on to sit-ups and stomach crunches, then add some squat jumps and shuttle runs for your legs, and finish off with some burpees and a brisk jog to bring it all back home. The plus side of circuit training is that you're always doing something new, and an hour-long training session can burn up to 710 calories. The constantly rotating exercises can keep the training fresh and your mind engaged. Infographics tip: a great way to add calories to your routine is to include resistance training. Just kidding. The answer is also scorpions. Number 4. Calisthenics. Calisthenics are exercises that rely on little more than your own body weight, which makes it the ideal exercise for when you're away from home or at the gym, or if you're just plain poor. Routines vary, and you'll definitely want to get the help of an expert or watch some good guides online to avoid risk of injury. However, when done right, calisthenics is both an excellent way to lose weight and get absolutely shredded. The humble pull-up will burn fat and strengthen your arms and back, and jump squats will nuke your glutes and thighs. The classic push-up is a great calisthenic workout, and there's tons of variations to target different parts of the arm muscles. Try diamond push-ups in combination with regular push-ups to get a great arm workout. A tough session of calisthenics can burn as many calories as circuit training, up to 710 an hour. Infographics tip: calisthenics can feature some exercises that are extremely difficult for exercise beginners, like the pull-up. To help with motivation, hang a solid metal bar off a ledge of a tall building and do your pull-ups there. The threat of imminent death will give you all the motivation you need to bust out your first pull-up, and slowly your strength will increase until you can do many more, or you'll fall to your death. Either way, calories are no longer a concern. Now we're in the top 3 best exercises for burning calories. Number 3. Running. Yes, there is a difference between running and jogging. Jogging tends to keep a slower, steadier pace that's focused on keeping you moving, and it's a great way to increase your aerobic fitness levels until you're ready to kick it up a notch. Running, though, is moving at a much faster clip, typically around 6.5 to 8 miles an hour. The difference is dramatic, and you can hit up to 710 calories an hour by running over jogging, as much as 200 extra calories. If it seems hard, don't worry, because your body is programmed to do it. Back in the savannah, what made a man an efficient predator wasn't claws or fangs, it was our ability to run extremely long distances without overheating and dying. Early men would simply run their prey to death, literally, and then run it all the way back home. So start off with some jogging, and soon you'll be hearing the call of your ancestors and running like a pro. Infographics tip: much like jogging, maintaining a run for an entire hour requires a lot of motivation, especially because to get the full benefit, you want to be moving quickly. So next time you're out for a run and your motivation slips, steal a baby. Unlike with a pet, the cops will probably get involved and help keep your speed up. Plus, you'll be helping them get their daily burn in too, showing that you care about our boys in blue. Number 2. Water polo. It's the sport of kings. Well, not really. It's really more like the sport of junior high school if your high school was rich enough to have a pool. The game is simple. You toss a volleyball around to your buddies who try to throw it into a net. The real challenge, though, comes from the fact that you're constantly swimming, which is a full-body workout. If you ever wonder why water polo players are shredded like lettuce mix, it's because water polo is played in deep water, and there's no standing up when you're tired. What it lacks in skill, dignity, popular interest, and clothing, water polo more than makes up for in sheer calories burned, with a whopping 839 calories melting off your body every hour. Infographics tip: add sharks. Number 1. Kickboxing or other martial arts. Martial arts can offer very high-intensity workouts, especially if they involve full or partial contact. Even just a casual spar can shred calories as you're constantly moving, jumping, attacking, or defending. This is a full-body workout that has the side benefit of teaching you some great self-defense moves, which puts it at the very top of our list. A vigorous training session can burn as many calories as running, but with the bonus of teaching you how to defend yourself. Just make sure you've gotten a physical checkup first and that you and your training partner know each other's limits. Infographics tip: to get the ultimate workout, you're going to have to go beyond the limits of human endurance. So ditch your training partner, break into your local zoo, Pick a fight with the biggest animal you can find for a complete and total full-body workout. Got a fancy event coming up or a hot date and nervous about your weight? With extreme threat of limb loss, you will quite literally watch the pounds come off your body, making this our top choice for immediate weight loss. Are you ready to instantly lose weight, gain muscle, and live longer? Well, no matter what anyone says, there is no miracle diet that can do these things for you. Staying healthy is a balance between eating the right foods and being active. However, a high-protein diet may be a good place to start. There are a lot of positive things that eating protein can do for your body. But too much protein can cause some nasty side effects. How much is too much, and does it matter where your protein comes from? Let's find out. Proteins are arguably the most important molecules in your body. They make up your cells, allow your body to carry out essential functions, and without protein, you die. There are over 80,000 different proteins in the human body, and each one has a function. In fact, proteins make up around 20% of your entire body, so it should come as no surprise that consuming enough protein is vital to your survival. Proteins are made up of smaller molecules called amino acids that are joined together and aligned in a unique way to create different shapes. The crazy thing is that out of the 21 amino acids used by the human body to make proteins, there are 9 that can't be synthesized by your cells. This means the only way to get them is by eating foods that have these amino acids stored in them. Which foods contain the amino acids and proteins I need to stay alive, you might be wondering? Don't worry, the infographic show's got you covered. We'll tell you exactly where to find the protein your body so desperately craves later on in the video. But let's start with the basics. When you eat something, your body tears it apart, breaks it down, and then circulates the molecules and nutrients contained within the food around your body so that your cells can get what they need. For example, you eat a slice of pork belly. The fats, proteins, and other molecules that are contained within that piece of meat don't go straight into your belly. Instead, the meat is broken down in the stomach and intestines, and the individual nutrients get circulated to every part of your body via your circulatory system. Therefore, we eat to provide our bodies with the molecules necessary to function and keep us alive, and proteins are one of the most important molecules of all. So, how much protein should you actually be eating, and what does it do to your body? Everyone's body is different, which means everyone's daily intake of protein will need to be different to provide the optimum effect. Researchers suggest that the average male should consume around 56 grams of protein per day, while females should have approximately 46 grams of protein each day. However, since everyone is a different size and weight, there might be a better way to calculate how much protein you should be eating. You should be consuming around 0.365 grams of protein a day for every pound you weigh. An easier way to think of this is for every pound of body weight, you should eat 3.65 grams of protein. This means if you weigh 150 pounds, you should eat around 55 grams of protein throughout the day. However, this is just a baseline. People who are more active will need to consume more protein to maintain or build their muscle mass. But these calculations are a good baseline to start with. Surprisingly, there's still a decent amount of debate within the scientific and medical community on how much protein someone should actually consume in a 24-hour period. Some experts put that number twice as high as previously mentioned, but more research still needs to be done to justify these numbers. Regardless of what the exact amount of protein a person should consume is, there's even a more important question. What does the protein you eat physically do to your body? Since proteins play a vital role in many life functions and literally make up the cells in your body, a better question might be, what don't proteins do? There are definitely a number of noticeable effects that a high-protein diet can have on your overall health and physiology. Scientists have found that high-protein diets end up reducing your appetite. A number of studies revealed that out of all the nutrients you consume on a daily basis, protein is the one that makes you feel the fullest. The reason for this is that protein reduces the amount of a hormone called ghrelin in your body. Ghrelin is one of the molecules that tells your brain that you're hungry. Therefore, less ghrelin in your system, the less hungry you feel. Protein also boosts the level of peptide YY, which signals the body that it's full. With the reduction of ghrelin and the increase of peptide YY, the body feels nutritionally satisfied much sooner than you would with a low-protein meal. This reduces the urge to overeat, which in turn can help you lose weight and stay healthier. In a study conducted at the University of Washington School of Medicine, people who increased the number of calories they consumed from a protein source from 15% to 30% ate around 441 fewer calories per day than someone on a lower protein diet. The craziest part was that the people in the study were allowed to eat as much as they wanted. The group that increased their protein intake just felt fuller quicker, so they ate less. What this implies is that subbing out foods that are higher in fat, sugar, and carbohydrates for meat or high-protein veggies might make you feel more satisfied with fewer calories. Along with suppressing appetite, high-protein diets can help you lose weight in another way. High-protein intake has been shown to increase metabolism, at least for a short period of time. Even as you eat, your body is using energy to break down the food and circulate the nutrients to your vital organs and muscles. The energy expended and the increase in metabolic rate to aid in digestion is called the thermic effect of food, or TEF. The interesting thing is that protein has a much higher thermic effect than most other types of molecules like carbohydrates or fats. Studies have shown that by eating high-protein foods, your thermic effect can increase by 5 to 15% more than consuming food with little or no protein. What this means is that your body has to work harder to break down protein than other molecules. This causes you to use more energy during digestion, while simultaneously increasing your metabolism. All of these factors combined can cause your body to burn 80 to 100 more calories a day just from eating. And this might be a conservative number. One study showed that a group of people eating a high-protein diet burned on average 260 calories more per day than a group of people on a low-protein diet. This is the equivalent of the amount of energy expended from a moderate workout session. Who knew that eating could be such good exercise? And speaking of working out, protein is literally the building block for all your muscles. So does eating more protein correlate to increased muscle size? Not exactly. However, increasing the amount of protein in your diet will impact your muscles in a number of different ways. Eating more protein does not necessarily build more muscle, but it does help maintain muscle mass and promote growth. If all you did was eat protein, your muscles would not magically become bigger. However, if you engaged in a weightlifting regimen on a regular basis while also increasing protein intake, your muscles would likely get larger more quickly than if you stuck to your typical diet. Someone who's active and trying to bulk up their muscle mass should definitely increase the amount of protein they put into their bodies. There's also another important factor to consider when trying to build, or more importantly, maintain muscle mass. If for some reason you need to stop lifting weights or reduce your time working out due to an injury or life just getting in the way, you should still maintain a high-protein diet. The rationale for this is that if you go from being highly active to less active, you'll begin to lose weight as your muscles shrink. However, a high-protein diet can slow the rate of and even prevent muscle loss if the right types of food are consumed. Perhaps the biggest selling point for high-protein diets is that not only will they help you lose weight, but they will help you keep the pounds off as well. Over the course of a year, high-protein diets seem to be much more effective at helping people maintain weight loss. Now, it's important to remember that just eating a lot of protein will not cause you to lose weight instantly. However, there may be some huge benefits if you stay active, eat the right types of protein, and keep track of your calories. For example, a study that tracked 130 people on high-protein diets over the course of a year found that they lost 53% more body fat compared to a control group of people on a regular protein diet. In a clinical trial conducted by the Department of Human Biology at Maastricht University in the Netherlands, researchers found that high-protein diets reduced weight regain by around 50%. This is huge for people who want to lose weight and keep the weight off. As many dieters know, losing the weight is only half the battle. It's keeping the weight off that can be hard. But it seems from a number of studies that a high-protein diet and healthy lifestyle might be one of the best ways to do just that. You probably have heard that one side effect of a high-protein diet is that it can be damaging to your bones. Is there any truth to this? The myth probably originated from the idea that protein can increase the acidity level of your body slightly, which in theory could cause calcium to leach from your bones. To be fair, if your blood's acidity was high enough, it most certainly could cause the calcium on your bones to break down and weaken your skeletal system. But if your blood ever ended up at that high of a level of acidity, you'd be dead, so it really wouldn't matter. What long-term studies have shown is that both animal and plant protein can actually help people maintain bone mass as they get older. According to some research, people who maintain a high-protein diet over extended periods of time also seem to be at a lower risk of osteoporosis and bone fractures. It's important to point out that this does not mean you should immediately start consuming mass quantities of beef to increase your bone health. There are better sources of protein which will break down for you in a bit. The same thing goes for this next health benefit. It's all contingent on what type of protein you're eating. It might seem counterintuitive, but a high-protein diet can actually lower your blood pressure. The exact mechanism for this is not completely understood yet, but in one study it was found that a high-protein diet did not just lower blood pressure, but also reduced LDL cholesterol and triglycerides. This is important because these factors in high levels can be a recipe for heart attack, stroke, and kidney disease. Although a high-protein diet can have harmful effects on the kidneys, you probably don't need to worry too much as long as you're in good health. Doctors recommend that people with kidney diseases reduce the amount of protein they eat. This is because high amounts of protein can exacerbate problems in kidneys that are already damaged. However, the same thing cannot be said about people with healthy kidneys. It's always important to follow the advice of doctors and medical professionals when they recommend lifestyle changes. However, no studies have connected high protein consumption to causing damage to healthy kidneys. Protein may even be able to reverse and repair the damage done to the body. Since it's the building block of your cells, muscles, and organs, eating more protein actually provides your body with the resources it needs to help repair itself. Several studies have even claimed that after you suffer an injury, consuming more protein could help speed up the time it takes to recover. Some researchers even claim that if you're on a high-protein diet before you get injured, it may cause your body to heal faster than someone who is not. More analysis needs to be done, but it's possible that in the future doctors will recommend foods high in protein after an injury, along with other already established treatments. So we know that high-protein diets have several immediate and short-term benefits for the body. But what about as you get older? It might sound crazy, but a high-protein diet in the middle stages of life can have lasting benefits even to your more mature years. It's no secret that as you age, your body becomes weaker, your muscles start to shrink, and your bones become more frail. However, studies have shown by eating more protein, these effects can be mitigated. It's also important that you maintain some form of activity as well, because if you don't use your muscles, they will begin to atrophy no matter how much protein you eat. But eating a high-protein diet during your life and into your latter years will help your body retain some of its strength and keep you in better overall health. There are definitely a lot of positives to eating a high-protein diet, but is there a downside? Unfortunately, yes. So before you go on a meat-buying spree, make sure you watch the rest of this video. As we've said before, there is no miracle diet that can solve all of your weight and health problems. This is especially true of high-protein diets that require you to cut out all other macronutrients from your meals. You should steer clear of any diet that tells you to remove all carbs or fats from your life. In these types of situations, you could develop nutritional deficiencies such as low fiber, which can cause headaches and constipation. Therefore, a high-protein diet does not mean you should remove all other types of food from your life. As we said before, the type of protein you're eating matters, and there are definitely some foods that are better than others. You should not be eating all red meat or full-fat dairy foods because they can cause an increased risk of heart disease. This is because these types of foods are often full of saturated fats and high in cholesterol. So this brings up the question, what types of foods should you be eating in your high-protein diet? You obviously want to receive the benefits of consuming more protein, but don't want to put yourself at risk for high cholesterol or heart disease. Luckily, the infographic shows got you covered. The best meats to eat to get your protein fix are a mixture of birds, fish, and one other animal that you will not believe. Chicken is a relatively low-priced meat that is healthy and can provide enough protein to meet your daily requirements. Chicken contains around 31 grams of protein for every 100 grams of meat. The best thing about chicken is that about 90% of the calories in the meat come directly from protein. We discussed earlier how important this is for speeding up your metabolism and reducing daily caloric intake. However, an even healthier option for high-protein meat is fish. Yellowfin tuna contains around 30 grams of protein for 100 grams of meat. Other fish possesses slightly less protein per serving, but not by much. However, the benefit of eating fish as part of a high-protein diet is that they also contain omega-3 fatty acids and vitamins such as D and B2. Omega-3 has been shown to be extremely good for your heart and reduce plaque buildup around blood vessels. This means that a fish is a 2-for-1 meal that provides both high amounts of protein and essential vitamins as well. Another seafood that's high in protein is shrimp. These crustaceans contain 23 grams of protein for every 100 grams of meat. They might also provide a cheaper way to get your daily protein from seafood, as shrimp tend to cost less per pound than high-end fish. The most surprising animal that can serve as a good source of protein isn't a fish, a bird, or a mammal. Instead, it's an insect. Crickets are an excellent source of protein. They contain around 60 grams of protein for every 100 grams of crickets consumed. Right now, crickets tend not to be the main source of protein for any diet. However, as scientists and nutritionists work to make crickets more mainstream, this is changing. The great thing about these insects is that they are plentiful, reproduce rapidly, and have minimal impacts on the environment. When they're eaten whole, crickets don't really have much of a taste other than whatever seasonings put on them. Some companies are even using crickets in their protein bars and powder. Regardless of your feelings on bugs, crickets might be the most sustainable, cost-effective source of protein we have. Meat is not the only way to get your protein, though. If you're a vegetarian or just looking for plant-based options, there are plenty of high-protein plants that will allow you to meet your daily intake goals. These foods are also healthier than eating most meats and can either be used as a substitute or an extra source of protein during a meal. One of the richest plant proteins is seitan. This durable food is made from the gluten of wheat and contains around 25 grams of protein for every 100 grams of seitan. It also boasts the highest amount of protein per gram out of any plant-based alternatives to meat. Tofu is also high in protein as well. Tofu is actually made of coagulated soy milk that's been pressed together into a block. Although this doesn't sound super appetizing, tofu has the ability to fit into almost any dish as it has very little taste of its own, and its texture can change based on how it's cooked. The best part about tofu is that it not only contains high amounts of protein, but is rich in iron and calcium as well. In 100 grams of tofu, there are around 20 grams of protein. Beans are also a great source of protein for anyone trying to stay away from meat. Most beans contain around 15 grams of protein per cup. But since beans can be cooked in a variety of ways, they can be easily added to pretty much any meal and boost your protein intake. Medical professionals recommend that most of your protein should come from plant sources. This is because they tend to be a healthier option than meat due to the fact that plants contain many nutrients and vitamins your body needs. If you only eat meat, you'll definitely have a high-protein diet, but that'll be about it. There's no substitute for a well-balanced diet, so make sure to incorporate different protein sources in your meals throughout the day. This brings us to a very important question. How much is too much protein? And what side effects can consuming too much protein have? It's always possible to have too much of a good thing in life, and protein is no different. When you consume too much protein, the risks outweigh the benefits. For example, although protein has been shown to have no long-term effects on healthy kidneys, it can still cause other problems in this part of the body. Eating too much protein can lead to kidney stones, which are incredibly painful until removed. Depending on the size of the stones, a doctor might need to use a laser to break them up into smaller pieces. There are two main ways that kidney stones can then be removed. Both are painful enough that the patient needs to be given anesthesia. One method is known as cystoscopy, where the doctor inserts a cystoscope into the urethra to locate and remove the stones. You can imagine that having anything stuck up your urethra would be unpleasant. Another method of removing kidney stones is called percutaneous nephrolithotomy. This is when a doctor cuts a hole in your side and kidney and inserts a tool called a nephroscope into it. This device then allows the doctor to look around and remove any stones they find. As mentioned before, eating too much red meat can also lead to high cholesterol and heart problems. Therefore, it's important not to restrict your high-protein diet to just one type of meat or protein source. There's still disagreement amongst medical professionals as to how much protein is too much, but there are definitely some guidelines to follow. For the average person, it's recommended you not eat more than 0.9 grams of protein for every pound you weigh. This means that a 150-pound person should not consume more than 135 grams. And this is the very upper limit. That being said, if you are someone who's extremely active or an athlete, you can probably get away with eating slightly more, as your body will use it to repair and build muscle. It's when the body becomes oversaturated with protein that problems start to arise. There are some key steps you should take before starting a high-protein diet, especially if you're going to try to consume the upper limits for your body weight. The first is to discuss the decision with your doctor. They'll likely want to run some tests just to make sure your kidneys are healthy and in working order. You'll also need to do your research. We've tried to provide you with some of the best food options to eat while on a high-protein diet, but there are many other choices. Depending on where you live and what types of foods you like, there are likely other sources of protein that might be better for you. You can also talk to a nutritionist who might be able to give you further guidance. It's important to remember that although some meats have higher amounts of protein than other foods, fish, nuts, and beans can all still be healthy supplements to any meal. Regardless of what high-protein foods you decide to eat, you should still include fruits and vegetables in your diet. They might not have as much protein as meat, but they are rich in vitamins and minerals your body needs. You should also identify exactly why you are starting your high-protein diet. If your goal is to lose weight, you don't need to consume as much protein as someone who's working to bulk up and gain muscle. Or maybe you're just planning for the future and want to have a healthier body in the long run. There are many benefits to eating a high-protein diet, but there can also be risks. This is why it never hurts to discuss your dietary plan with medical professionals. Fasting is the new fad, and if you check numerous forums where people talk about their fasting experience, you'll find it has helped a lot of people lose weight. You'll see people talking about how they tried all kinds of diets, the low carb, the keto diet, low fat, reduced sugar, all kinds. But for some folks, none of those worked for them. Then they fasted, and the weight came off. On top of that, they talk about mental clarity, feeling light on their feet, more agile. You can watch David Sinclair, a professor in the Department of Genetics at Harvard Medical School, telling people they should skip meals, something in the past that was seen as an unhealthy way to live. So what actually happens when you fast? Either doing the short intermittent fasts or the grueling 5-day fasts? Let's find out. Harvard University is where we decided to go to find out about intermittent fasting, only because we believe we can trust the school's research over some other more dubious health guru websites. Scientists at Harvard, including David Sinclair, who we just mentioned, have done all kinds of tests on rats to see what makes them healthier or unhealthier. When it comes to fasting, the rats came out looking pretty good. The results were often the same with any of the rats on a fast. It would lose weight, and its blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugars would often improve. The U.S. National Institutes of Health agreed that when rats fasted, there were health benefits, including a more efficient energy metabolism. That's rats though, not humans. So what scientists then had to find out is, would humans get the same benefits? Should we give up 3 square meals a day or lots of small meals and just deprive ourselves of food now and again? Let's have a look at what happens to the body when we fast. The experts tell us that when we don't feed ourselves for somewhere between 12 and 16 hours, our glycogen stores in our liver become depleted. The body then switches from using sugar as a source of energy to using fat. If you did a lot of exercise, this can also happen. This metabolic state that happens during this time we call ketosis, and this brings about changes in the body. Most of us don't actually reach this state because we've grown up being told to eat when we're hungry, don't go to school on an empty stomach, or we just put sugar in that morning coffee at the office. Fasting means trying to avoid calorie intake, although there are some that say that a few calories might still keep your body in the fasting state. That's debatable, as some say only have water or tea. As we said, some leading researchers around the world did lots of tests on rats, allowing some to eat what they wanted and others were only given food now and again. This is the conclusion we found in one paper that was published by the National Institutes of Aging. Emerging evidence suggests that intermittent dietary energy restriction might improve overall health and reduce risk factors for diabetes and cardiovascular disease in humans. Our new findings in laboratory animals provide evidence that similar intermittent eating patterns can enhance the beneficial effects of aerobic exercise on endurance performance. You can read a lot of books on why our obesity crisis happened, and the long and short of it is many people are too sedentary or just eat way too much and way too much sugary processed food. It won't surprise you that the book The Obesity Code tells people they shouldn't constantly be snacking and they should try and eat healthy foods, more veggies, fruits, healthy proteins, and less refined grains, processed foods, and sugar. It's no surprise that some of the fattest countries in the world have a snacking culture and a fast food culture. Still, some people do eat quite well and can't seem to lose weight. It's as if the body has a certain calibration and wants to stay at a particular weight. That's where fasting has helped people. It's worked where diets have failed. You see, there's some evidence that even when we restrict our bodies of calories, the body thinks, oh god, I'm starving. And so it slows down and takes what it can from the few calories you put in. Even if you're a big person, if you reduce calories, you might not lose weight because your body goes into survival mode. It slows down its metabolism. If you watch enough Joe Rogan, you'll know that this is an ongoing argument. But what most people do agree on is that fasting seems to work for most people. But if you look at human studies, which had some people on a plant-based healthy diet and some others doing one-day fasts, the results weren't much different. Some people lost weight, others weren't affected much at all. Then again, there's lots of evidence out there from people who actually tried fasting, and the results for most people were positive. But we'll get around to that later. Researchers from the University of Alabama were interested to see if fasting might help people with pre-diabetes, meaning that they were on their way to getting full-blown diabetes. It's well known that if you eat a ton of food before you sleep, it can increase your chances of getting diabetes. We don't need to tell you that if you are very obese because your fingers are hardly ever doing anything other than putting chips, cookies, and all kinds of processed junk into your mouth, you're at risk of getting diabetes. The proof is in the pudding, and America has a big pie of evidence. In 2018, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention told us that 1 in 7 Americans has diabetes. And while lifestyle is not to blame for around 5% of the cases, the vast majority of the remaining 95% have diabetes because of a poor diet and resulting obesity. So can fasting help? Well, in one study, the researchers put pre-diabetics on a plan called early time-restricted feeding. This meant some participants could only eat from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. and nothing else after or before. The other group could eat between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., a kind of normal time frame for most people. Both groups actually didn't gain weight or lose weight, but those in the 7 to 3 time frame showed a drop in insulin levels. They also showed a lower blood pressure, and another important factor was they just got used to it and showed a decrease in appetite. There's no doubt that this kind of intermittent fasting has worked for a lot of people, but most researchers do say that if you do it, also try to have a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle. Dieting may also help, but the fact is some people just find it easier to skip meals. Sometimes it's hard to find healthy food, and sometimes it takes too much time to cook. So fasting is a good option if you want to try and lose weight without much planning or effort. What about fasting not just for a certain part of the day but missing an entire day's foods? The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition published a study from independent researchers who took a bunch of participants and put them on this 1-day-a-week fast for 5 weeks. Its conclusion was that indeed people lost weight, but they were also hungry during that fasting day. It said perhaps adding one healthy meal and a fasting day would be better. That's why you'll hear a lot about 16-hour fasts, 18-hour fasts, 20-hour fasts. Maybe start with the 16-hour fast and build up to 24 hours. All over the web, there is scientific and anecdotal evidence that fasting can help reduce a person's weight and also help people with type 2 diabetes. Some evidence also points to fasting increasing something called the BDNF protein in the brain, which is why some people claim they have enhanced mental clarity when fasting. Others say that giving the body a break from food can help reduce pain and inflammation and also help repair cells. Some studies have concluded that chronic pain can be eased if fasting is done in tandem with a vegetarian diet. While there is some quite strong evidence that tells us that fasting might help with other chronic degenerative and inflammatory diseases, we found one paper in which scientists wrote that fasting might help regenerate stem cells and so could have a positive effect on cancer patients. Studies on animals show that fasting might even reduce the chances of getting Alzheimer's disease or heart problems. But so far, these studies have been done on animals, so right now we should say it's only a possibility it could do the same for humans. We should say, however, that doctors don't recommend pregnant women fast, nor malnourished people, nor people with a history of eating disorders, children, or women who are breastfeeding. Basically, it's best to do it when you're an adult and you feel like you need to lose some weight or lower your blood sugar. During your fasts, drink lots of liquids, mainly water or tea or coffee with no sugar or milk. You can also work out, and don't worry, it's not dangerous to do that according to the health experts. Some people online say they feel great exercising on their fasts, but others have said they felt weak or got a headache. If you do it, take it easy and see how you feel. Just head to any forum and see what people are saying about intermittent fasting, and indeed you'll find scores of people saying that they lost weight, felt more mentally alert, while after fasting they just didn't need as much food as before. As one doctor said online too, his clients found fasting a lot easier to do than following a strict diet plan. Looking at forums, you'll find lots of people saying things like this: yes, intermittent fasting is very helpful. I've lost 30 pounds, went from 20+% body fat to 8% so far just from this March. I've been doing it every day since. There seems little doubt that many people lose weight when doing these fasts, even just 16-hour fasts. Most people will eat their evening meal early around 5 and then get through most of the morning without food. While a lot more research needs to be done concerning all the health benefits, just reading what people say about their fasts online lets you know that fasting does work for most people if they want to lose weight, while many people enjoy how they feel during the fasts. Meet Jack. Jack is a master of the art of idleness. He's a slouch without a cause, a slug without a place to go. Jack really doesn't want to move. And with a phone full of apps to address his extreme laziness, he doesn't really have to. But what's going to happen to Jack over time? Well, things are going to go very badly for him. The horror will emerge slowly, but in time he's going to suffer all kinds of unimaginable things. As for the end, it won't be easy to watch for those around him. We very much doubt that there's ever been a person like Jack that just decided one day that he was never going to move from one spot again. Nonetheless, there have been plenty of people in the world who ate so much, a crane and a bulldozer were required to get them out of their house. Food did this, but also a lack of movement. We'll come back to some of those people later. You wouldn't necessarily turn into a Jabba the Hutt type character if you decided not to move for quite a while. But the fact is, if you had a regular diet, the total lack of exercise would very likely result in weight gain. How fast you'd put on the weight would depend on a number of factors. That is, it's not just about how much you eat, but what you eat, and also some genetic factors. With an unmoving person, in time their metabolism would slow down. So if they kept eating at a normal rate, it just makes scientific sense that they'd get bigger. The reason is that if a person moves, the mitochondria within their muscle cells increase. One scientist called mitochondria power plants, and it's these plants that keep burning energy. But in the absence of much movement, those plants would slow down so much that the energy wouldn't get burned. It really depends on how much you eat. Thanks to something called the appetite regulatory system, we receive signals when our body wants food. These signals are basically hunger, but for some reason that system is a bit hyperactive in some folks, and so they feel hungry easier. Let's just say Jack has not been moving around for 10 weeks now. As the saying goes, he's happy as a pig in poo. He's some way into achieving his lifetime ambition of watching every movie available on Netflix, and with the help of his eternally suffering sister, his number 1s and 2s have been taken care of. But because Jack has been putting very little stress on his muscles, his body has done the right thing and decreased the amount of nutrients and oxygen it sends to those muscles. His muscles are slowly wasting away. But there would be an opposite reaction if Jack decided to pump weights every day instead of watching movies. More activity in this case would make his body send more oxygen and nutrients to his muscles, and his muscles would grow. Jack doesn't really notice that he's in a stage of muscle wasting. Of course he doesn't. He's only on week 10. Things are going to get a lot worse. This is not to say Jack can't help himself. There are various forms of resistance training he could do on his bed. You might see such exercises after people have been injured or suffer from a disease that binds them to a bed or a chair. As you probably guessed though, Jack's not interested in being a good non-mover. Something Jack is also not concerned about is what's happening or what's going to happen to his skeletal system. Not only is he already packing on the pounds, his new thing is the Scottish delicacies of deep-fried pizza and deep-fried chocolate bars, but his bones are getting weaker. Make no mistake, Jack's body needs him to move. Don't use it and you lose it, as the saying goes. Non-movement will, over time, mean his bones are not going to get the nutrients they need. As a consequence, his bone mineral density will be negatively affected. This means a lack of movement will make his bones a bit weaker. There's now a double whammy effect for Jack. His excessively sedentary lifestyle has led to his bones becoming a little weaker. But remember, he's also lost muscle mass. Now he's got what looks like aging bones and he doesn't have the muscles to protect them. There are a number of stories in the media in which medical professionals talk about sedentary lifestyles leading to a rise in brittle bone problems, aka osteoporosis. This condition is not uncommon for older folks, but since we entered the era of sitting on our behinds all the time, there's a worrying trend of this happening to people in their 30s. It takes time to happen, of course. Jack is still happily mainlining Netflix, but it won't be long until he's the star of his own horror story. So his muscles are wasting away, his bones are on their way to becoming weaker. As for Jack's heart, he can still feel it pounding away in his chest. What he doesn't know is his heart is pounding on the door of his consciousness, screaming, "Get off the bed, you lazy piece of doo-doo!" Major organs would never use bad language. His heart really wants Jack to get moving, for the same reason that in time it knows Jack's lack of movement along with his newfound fondness of Scottish fast food will lead to a buildup of fatty material in his arteries. Like a hose pipe full of sausages, this will restrict the blood flow to Jack's heart. Too much fatty blockage could lead to a heart attack, and if blood flow to the brain is restricted, that could lead to a stroke. Although Jack doesn't have to worry too much about those things just yet. Remember though, he's intent on living out his days like this. There have been numerous studies that say a long-term sedentary lifestyle can lead to a higher risk of various diseases, such as heart disease and diabetes. And the long and short of it is that not moving much for many years will almost always result in someone having a shorter life. No doubt you've all seen those headlines. Sitting is the new smoking, or something to that effect. They might be somewhat hyperbolic, but there's definitely enough scientific evidence to show that a severe lack of physical activity is very likely going to have a profound effect on someone's health. What Jack is blissfully unaware of is the fact that because he's hardly moving at all, his body is producing less of something called lipoprotein lipase. This is an enzyme that breaks down fat in the blood. If you move around a fair bit, you'll produce enough of it. When you're sitting, the production level drops by about 90%. Before Jack decided to not move again, his favorite two movies were Spice World and anything from the Transformers and Fast and the Furious franchise. We don't want to upset anyone here, but we're going to say that Jack's taste in movies could be indicative of his being lacking in intelligence. Jack thought Game of Thrones was based on a true story. Anyway, he's not the sharpest tool in the proverbial toolbox, but what he doesn't know is that he's getting dumber. The lack of movement has led to a decrease in something called the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. This stuff grows neurons in the brain. Scientists say it's related to learning and memory, so it's good to keep it flowing. Just keep it moving and it should go. There's also some evidence that lack of physical activity can lead to a reduced cognitive function overall. You could argue though, and you'd be right, that instead of watching Spice World on repeat for an entire week, Jack endeavored to get through a history of Western philosophy. And if he went on doing stuff like that, his brain and intelligence would likely be okay. That is true, but it doesn't mean that the lack of activity wouldn't affect how he understands difficult books. There's a paper in the Journal of Comparative Neurology that discusses what happened to the brains of rats when they were forced to do what Jack did. The other groups of rats ran around on wheels and generally had a good old time. Okay, humans aren't rats, and no two rats are alike, but the scientists believe that what happened to the sedentary rats can be used as a model for humans. The result was that the Spice World-loving rats had something called an overactive sympathetic nervous system. This can be bad, and has been known to be a cause of heart disease and high blood pressure. In short, the absence of much movement at all is very likely not great for your thinking organ. It's also terrible for your blood pumping organ. Your lungs won't love you for it either. There's tons of evidence that says sitting around all day gives a person more chance of developing a clot in their lungs. This is called a pulmonary embolism, which means a clot somewhere in the blood travels up into the lungs. In one study, it was found that people who sat for 6 or more hours a day for 18 years had double the chance of developing a pulmonary embolism. Okay, you might think that sitting all day is worth the risk of such a clot, but we should tell you that they are pretty serious. If not treated, 30% of sufferers will die. Even when treated, 8% of sufferers will die from one. Now we've come to another juncture. We are going to fast forward in time and imagine that Jack has put in his 10 years of not getting off his bed. While Jack is fictional, sadly the web provides ample stories of people who have lived like Jack, and so we can assume that what happened to them could easily happen to him. Let's take the story of a British man named Paul Mason. He used to be the fattest man in the world at one point, weighing 1,120 pounds. Mason had an eating habit that would put an elephant to shame, but he also had a reason. In the way of a traumatic childhood and subsequent depression. This led to outstanding binge eating in his 20s, which meant he ballooned like Jack and he wasn't able to go anywhere. Even when he went to the hospital, he had to be hoisted from his bed. Not long ago, he lost much of his weight after having surgery, but after that, he still spent much of his time in hospitals. He had 8 stomach hernias and had to have many operations in his knees and hips. Unfortunately, we can't find much more about other problems, but you can be sure there were many. We know this because of what happened to many other people that were bedbound. For instance, look at what happened to the American woman named Carol Yeager. She died when she was just 34 years of age, but prior to her release from life, she weighed as much as 1,200 pounds. Much of her weight, by the way, was fluid buildup, which is called edema. Because of her weight and her lack of movement, she also suffered from extremely high blood sugar levels. She was out of breath all the time too, which was the result of there being so much fat in her chest cavity. On top of that, even if she really wanted to move, she couldn't. As you now know, that's because her muscles wasted away. So much sitting then put tremendous pressure on her heart. In fact, all of her organs were failing her, which is why on her death certificate, there were the words multiple organ failure. You might be thinking, okay, these are the most extreme cases and Jack wouldn't end up like that state. But Jack, as you know, is no shirker when it comes to being irresponsible. He just kept eating even though he was getting larger by the month. Look at the case of Manuel Uribe, who died from his extreme obesity in 2014. He was just like Jack. When he was growing up, he lived in Mexico and had a fairly normal Mexican diet. Although the diet was far from being perfect when it came to avoiding obesity. He once said it included beans, rice, flour tortilla, corn tortilla, French fries, hamburgers, subs, and pizza, whatever regular people eat. At the time, he weighed just 254 pounds, which made him only a bit overweight, since he was over 6 feet tall. Then he moved to the US, where he said all his problems started. He embraced the infamous American fast food culture with enthusiasm, and his job, technician, meant he spent most of his time sitting. He once said life in the United States is like that. You just go from your desk to your car. I used to drive my car to and from work, so I didn't get any exercise. The upshot was that his weight peaked at around 1,230 pounds. And this, he said, was a result of eating a lot and hardly moving rather than trying to smash eating records. When his mother was asked by the press what she most wanted for her son, she said that he can get up and walk. At that point, he could only get out of bed with the help of a forklift. He did try to lose weight, but in the end, his many extra pounds caused problems that proved too much for him, and he had severe heart problems. He also had liver damage, which can happen to anyone who's obese. A form of it is actually pretty common in the US, called non-alcoholic liver disease. The organ first gets fatty. That can lead to a scarring of the liver, fibrosis, and over time this can result in irreversible damage called cirrhosis. And if you think that only happens to habitual boozers, think again. About 24% of American adults suffer from non-alcoholic liver disease, and you could bet your life that Jack would get it. In the end, it was said Mr. Uribe died after suffering liver failure as well as multiple cardiac arrhythmias. With these stories in mind, if Jack really didn't move much for a decade while eating anything he liked, he would almost certainly get sick, very sick, and possibly die. If he survived a decade, you can bet he wouldn't last another without some serious kind of illness. The good news for people if they really can't move but want to is that with professional help and an exercise regimen coupled with a healthy diet, while they will likely suffer some related health problems, they can at least keep the weight off. Also, good news is that if you're watching this and you know you're severely overweight and you don't do much moving, much of the damage can be reversed. There's no time like the present to get off your butt. You've been drinking coffee your entire adult life. Now you've decided to quit. At first, you breathe a sigh of relief, realizing that you are no longer reliant on the drug that is coffee. But this feeling doesn't last long. Your hands start to shake, you get a splitting headache, and you feel an uncontrollable urge to run to the nearest coffee shop and shoot caffeine straight into your veins. What actually happens when you stop drinking coffee? Let's find out. The reason coffee is so addictive isn't because of its taste, but because of a white, bitter chemical found in the coffee plant's beans. We are not talking about any illegal drugs here. Instead, we're referring to caffeine. The surprising thing is that the Food and Drug Administration actually classifies caffeine as an addictive drug. It just happens to be a legal one. Your body craves the substance once it becomes accustomed to it because caffeine causes higher concentrations of dopamine to build up in the brain due to its ability to block specific receptors. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that makes you feel happy. After you drink coffee, the caffeine enters the bloodstream via your stomach and small intestine. It is then carried around the body where it activates the pleasure centers of the brain. So basically, the caffeine in coffee is is tricking your body into producing chemicals that make you happy and more alert. This feeling is a good one, and therefore your body doesn't want to give it up so easily. But how quickly does it take for you to go into withdrawal after your final sip of coffee? And what long-term effects will it have on you? According to a study conducted in psychopharmacology that consisted of a compilation of 170 years of research, the symptoms of caffeine withdrawals can start as early as 12 hours after your last cup. And there is even worse news than that. All of the terrible feelings and changes to your body could persist for 9 days after your body is cut off from the drug. Unfortunately, some of the worst symptoms happen right away. Everyone is different and everyone's body responds differently to coffee withdrawals. However, we're about to take a journey through what will happen to most people who decide to stop drinking coffee cold turkey. Moments after your last sip of coffee, the liquid will descend down your esophagus and into your stomach. From there, some of the caffeine in the drink passes through your stomach lining and into your bloodstream. Seconds after that, the coffee will move into your small intestine, where the rest of the caffeine diffuses through the tissue and begins fully circulating around your body. It only takes a matter of minutes before this process is complete. This is why it only takes a few sips of coffee to help you feel awake. The highest caffeine levels your body will experience occur about an hour after you finish your cup of coffee. From then on, it'll all be downhill. After about an hour, your body slowly starts to use up all that caffeine that's circulating through your bloodstream. This is okay until your body realizes that it will not get a replenishment the next day. When you wake up on your first day without drinking coffee, you will feel groggy, but those nasty symptoms are just about to begin. As you walk into the kitchen and sit down to drink a glass of orange juice instead of your regular cup of coffee, you notice your hands are shaking. Actually, you might feel every part of your body begin to jitter. This is ironic because too much caffeine can cause the same symptoms due to the substance being a powerful stimulant that causes the nervous system to send signals through the body faster than usual. When this stimulant is removed, the same side effects can occur. Your body became so used to the extra boost caffeine gave that when the substance is removed, the nervous system slows down slightly, and the signals from the brain to the rest of the body are less constant. These signals will now be at the appropriate levels, so that's good. But your body is just not used to functioning without the help of coffee. This is one of the reasons why your first day without caffeine might start with the shakes. As you sit at the kitchen table, staring off into space, something begins to creep into the back of your brain. You're probably thinking of coffee and how you would give anything for just one sip. This is when you start to develop a headache. Besides increasing the concentration of dopamine in your body to make you feel happy, caffeine also tricks the brain into thinking there's an emergency, which some scientists think might cause adrenaline to be released. This is another reason why coffee makes you feel so awake. But the unfortunate thing is that once the body gets used to an influx in these chemicals, it starts to crave them. Without its daily dose of caffeine, the body does something strange. Instead of maintaining normal hormone levels, your body begins dumping adenosine into the bloodstream. This is a chemical that signals the body it needs rest or sleep. This change in brain chemistry is what causes caffeine withdrawal headaches to develop. Another change that happens the morning after you've given up coffee is that your blood vessels start to enlarge. This is actually a good thing because it means more oxygen can flow to the brain. However, since your body has become accustomed to shrunken blood vessels as a result of drinking coffee, the return back to normal can be painful. In fact, caffeine can reduce the blood flow to the brain by as much as 27%, which means once it's out of your system, your blood flow can increase by the same figure. This would be a shock to your system. When caffeine causes the blood vessels to narrow, your body increases the number of adenosine receptors on the blood cells, which helps them become enlarged. However, caffeine binds to those same receptors, resulting in the blood cells shrinking. When the caffeine is finally out of your system, the cells still have the extra receptors, but no caffeine to block them, meaning the blood vessels swell. The rapid shift between not getting enough blood flow because of the caffeine to getting too much blood flow can lead to withdrawal headaches the day after you stop drinking coffee. Unfortunately, this symptom can persist for the next several days. After your seething headache starts to subside, you'll notice something odd about your morning constitutional. If you regularly evacuate your bowels after your morning coffee, you are not alone. This is because the caffeine in it can actually cause contractions in the stomach, intestines, and colon that signal the body it is time to poop. For people who want to stay regular, this can be incredibly helpful, but now that you stopped drinking coffee, you might feel backed up. Caffeine also blocks the antidiuretic hormone produced in the pituitary gland, which signals the body that it's more hydrated than it actually is. This can lead to the urge to urinate more frequently while drinking coffee as well. However, on your first day off that brown liquid, your body becomes confused. Your hormones are out of whack, and the body is storing all the fluids and solids it would normally excrete after your morning cup of coffee. The crazy thing is that coffee can cause the body to start preparing itself to go to the bathroom in as little as a few minutes after drinking it. Unfortunately, your first day not drinking coffee will will be filled with bathroom frustrations, as you will probably be constipated for most of the day. Besides having bathroom problems, you'll also have concentration problems your first few days after cutting coffee out of your life. As you try to make it through your first workday without coffee, you'll find that you are less productive. This is because your brain is not being filled with dopamine like normal, and there's a buildup of adenosine, a hormone that makes you drowsy. It'll be a struggle to stay focused and get anything done during your first day of work without coffee, but there is even worse news. The next day, you'll probably be just as unproductive. Your body's become so accustomed to the jolt of energy that's given by a cup of coffee that it'll not be able to recover in just a day or two. You could end up feeling a lack of productivity for the entire week. Luckily, there's also good news. In several research studies, it was found that after people got over their caffeine withdrawal, their productivity exceeded what it was before. This is because caffeine might give some more focus when consumed daily, but is artificial. When the body's allowed to operate at optimum levels without the aid of an outside drug, you can be more productive for longer periods of time. You're almost through your first day of no coffee, and it's become brutal. Unfortunately, there are even worse side effects to come. As you progress through the day, you'll find yourself getting annoyed more easily and irritated by the littlest things. This is just another side effect of all the changes occurring in your body. The imbalance of hormones, feelings of being tired, lack of energy will make you wish you could curl up in a ball and just sleep until your body's passed through the withdrawal stages. Along with being irritable, you'll become more and more anxious as well. However, like most of the side effects of coffee, this too will pass and could even be better for your health. The anxiousness comes from an imbalance in all the chemicals mentioned before, along with norepinephrine and glutamate. These two are especially responsible for that anxious feeling lingering in your brain. Unfortunately, even sleep won't help you at this point. You lie in bed staring at the ceiling hoping for rest to come. You expect that since you've been tired all day, you'd just be able to pass right out. But this isn't the case. Your body is struggling to regain some form of the normalcy it had before you made coffee a regular part of your life. Unfortunately, a byproduct of this process is lack of sleep. Your first night since you stopped drinking coffee will likely be restless, as you toss and turn trying to will your body to fall asleep. This is part of the addiction recovery process because even though you might have decided to give up coffee, your body's chemical processes are not yet on board. Hormone levels are still out of balance. The brain is desperately trying to cope with the chemical changes associated with the lack of caffeine throughout the day. Eventually, you'll doze off, but since you probably didn't sleep great, the second day of no coffee will be worse than the first. You will wake up even more tired than the day before. All of those withdrawal symptoms from the previous day will likely persist, along with some new ones. Countless studies have found that the main symptom someone feels after giving up coffee is fatigue. This is kind of interesting because contrary to popular belief, coffee doesn't actually give you much energy at all. It's the way it throws your body's internal chemistry into controlled chaos that tricks you into thinking you have more energy when you drink coffee. Coffee only has around 1 calorie per cup, and since calories are the measurement of energy contained in food and drinks, it's clear that coffee does not give you much energy at all. On average, 1 egg contains around 78 calories, which means you need to drink 78 cups of coffee in order to get the same amount of energy from eating a single egg. This would be incredibly damaging to your health, so please do not try this. As day 2 progresses without coffee, you may start to feel depressed. Dopamine, glutamate, and norepinephrine are all chemicals that help you regulate your mood. Caffeine in coffee throws all of them out of balance. Since your body's trying to compensate for the lack of caffeine in your system, it can overcompensate when trying to regulate these hormones and return them back to normal levels. The withdrawal process can also exacerbate symptoms for people who have been diagnosed with a mood disorder. This is why you might feel sad for a few days after you stop drinking coffee. Some studies even claim that long-term coffee drinkers are more at risk of developing mood disorders, such as depression, because of the fundamental changes caffeine can make to the brain's chemistry. So once you start drinking coffee, sadness may be in your future. As you progress through day 2 of no coffee, you will likely feel tired, irritable, and sad all at the same time. But you know you just need to power through, and greener pastures are on the other side. A few days after you give up coffee, you might notice your blood pressure going down. This comes with all sorts of perks. Lower blood pressure is connected to lower stress and anxiety, so after a few days of going through caffeine withdrawal hell, you'll start to see some positive benefits in your body. The caffeine in coffee can cause an increase in blood pressure. It can also trick the body into going into fight or flight mode. An increase in blood pressure for a short amount of time is beneficial when trying to fight off an attack or run away from a predator because it allows more oxygen to circulate to your muscles. However, constantly having high blood pressure can be detrimental to your health. It has even been linked to an increased chance of heart attack or stroke. Less than a week after quitting coffee, your body will begin to adjust to the reduced amount of adrenaline and caffeine in the body. This will cause your blood pressure to decrease to more sustainable levels. A week or so after you stop drinking coffee, the withdrawal symptoms should be almost completely gone, or at least much more manageable. If they're not, it could mean you were drinking way too much coffee. Once you start feeling better, you might find yourself smiling more, which is a good thing because a week or two after you stop drinking coffee, your teeth will start to gain back some of their original color. Coffee is acidic, which means it can stain or damage your teeth. Once you stop consuming the brown liquid, your body can get to work on repairing the damage it's done. Coffee causes the saliva in your mouth to dry out, which normally protects the teeth from enamel buildup. This, along with the acidity, can cause lasting damage. Coffee also contains tannins, which can cause the color from different foods and drinks to stick to the teeth and stain them even more. Interestingly, it's been found that brushing your teeth right after drinking coffee will only exacerbate the problem as it spreads around the acids and compounds that stain your teeth, rather than removing them. Therefore, it's recommended you wait 30 minutes after drinking coffee to brush your teeth. Now that you quit drinking this stuff altogether, your teeth are thanking you, and you'll notice that brownish color associated with coffee-stained teeth is beginning to lighten. In the next week or two, your teeth might even be noticeably brighter. After weeks of fine-tuning, your body chemistry is almost completely back to normal. Without the side effects of caffeine withdrawal, you'll get a good night's sleep practically every night. Your brain can now more consciously spend time in slow wave and REM sleep, which are part of its restoration process. You'll also find that you need to use the bathroom less, which allows you to sleep soundly through the night. And if you usually had a cup of coffee in the afternoon or early evening just to give yourself that one last jolt before the end of the day, these effects will be even more noticeable. Studies have shown that drinking coffee even 6 hours before going to sleep can severely disrupt the sleep cycle, not to mention making it harder to fall asleep initially. This is because the lingering caffeine in your system is enough to trick your body into thinking it should be alert rather than resting. 2 weeks after you stop drinking coffee, you'll feel like a new person, or at least the person you were before becoming addicted to the stuff. It's interesting to note that although many people drink coffee to wake up in the morning, studies have shown that once coffee is removed from someone's daily routine, they tend to feel better rested and more awake than they did when they still drank the caffeinated beverage. This is likely because there is no substitute for a good night's rest and taking care of yourself. You've now reached the long-term effects of cutting coffee out of your life. You've suffered through caffeine withdrawal, mood swings, and the readjustment of your chemical composition. You're now enjoying some of the perks associated with a coffee-free lifestyle. But how will this decision affect you in the long run? It's been several weeks since your last cup of coffee, and you're feeling good. There's a biological reason for this. For as long as you've been drinking coffee, your body has been thrown out of homeostasis by the addictive caffeine compound. Now that it's been flushed from your system, your hormone levels are completely back to normal. Returning to normal hormone levels has been found to be especially beneficial in women, as the caffeine in coffee can throw their estrogen levels out of whack. In some women, caffeine can decrease the amount of estrogen in the body. This can lead to hot flashes, mood swings, and lowered sex drive. These aren't life-threatening conditions, but can definitely cause stress, especially if the coffee drinker doesn't know why it's happening. In other women, caffeine can increase the amount of estrogen produced, causing more severe PMS, depression, and non-cancerous lumps on the breasts and uterus. Now that the amount of caffeine ingested has been reduced over several weeks, estrogen levels are back to normal. To be clear, caffeine consumption for both men and women affects hormone levels. The longer you go without a cup of coffee, the better you will feel. There's no doubt that the days or even weeks of withdrawal sucks, but you will feel so much better in the long run. It's also been found that people who stop drinking coffee can lose weight in the weeks after they kick the habit. The reason for this is most likely connected to the substances added to the coffee, such as milk and sugar, rather than the coffee itself. A Duke University study showed that coffee, along with other caffeinated drinks, increases a person's daily sugar intake by about 10%. Now that you've removed coffee from your diet, your body is using more stored fats instead of burning the extra sugars that are in your morning beverage. This could cause you to lose weight and feel better all at the same time. However, there is something everyone should be aware of when they stop drinking coffee. Although there are benefits, and for many people they may experience weight loss, there's a chance you may gain weight instead. Coffee can suppress your appetite without you even realizing it. This means that after your body recovers from the initial shock of being deprived of caffeine, you might have a bigger appetite each morning. There are a couple of reasons for this. In the early days, when your body was still craving caffeine, you might have tried to fix the problem by consuming sugar in the form of donuts or cookies. However, as time progressed, you may begin to realize that you should have been having a bigger breakfast every morning and that coffee was tricking your body into thinking it was full when it was not. There's some important thing to learn from this. After a few weeks of not drinking coffee, you might realize you're hungrier than you were previously. This is just your body telling you that you should be taking in more calories. It doesn't mean that you should be loading up on sugary foods, but that your morning routine should be filled with more fruits and cereals instead of an addictive drug found in a hot beverage. This could in turn cause you to gain some weight, but perhaps that's okay. Just because you gain a little weight from eating a bigger, healthier breakfast instead of skipping the meal for a cup of coffee doesn't mean you should panic. Maybe now that you're feeling better overall, you'll have more time for exercise or to pursue other activities. This could lead lead to you dropping whatever weight you gained while also living a healthier life. One of the most pleasing results you might see after a few weeks of no coffee could be a younger you. That's right, research suggests that removing coffee from your daily routine could result in healthier skin. Your body is no longer under the influence of the diuretic tendencies of caffeine, so it's retaining more water. This is not only good for your internal processes, but for your skin as well. Now that you're sleeping better, less anxious, and have healthier skin, your body seems to go back in time. You aren't actually becoming younger, but the damage coffee and caffeine cause to your skin and your body is almost completely reversed. One study concluded that the caffeine in coffee prevented skin cells from producing collagen. This protein gives your skin its structure and aids in repairing damage to cells, helping you maintain a more youthful look. There also might be a connection between caffeine and the disruption of DNA synthesis in skin cells. If this is true, removing coffee from your daily life could allow skin cells to multiply more efficiently. The benefits of reducing the amount of coffee you consume or giving it up completely are numerous. However, most things in moderation tend to be okay. One rumor that many people have heard about drinking coffee is that it can stunt your growth or cause bone loss. But is there any actual truth to this? The answer might surprise you. According to the National Institutes of Health's Office of Dietary Supplements and Harvard Health Publishing, there's evidence that the caffeine in coffee can affect your bones. So after you stop drinking coffee, will your bones become stronger? The answer is no. According to scientists, caffeine in coffee can increase calcium excretion and reduce absorption, but not by any significant amount. The total amount of calcium lost from drinking coffee is around 2 to 3 milligrams in someone's lifetime and has no ill effects on growth. The prevalence of this myth is actually a perfect example of correlation not meaning causation. The research studies found that people who drank more coffee tended to drink less milk and other beverages that contained calcium. The lack of calcium-rich drinks led to weaker bones, not the coffee itself. Therefore, doctors warn that if you stop drinking coffee, it will not help your bones become stronger. However, they do recommend replacing coffee with a beverage that's rich in calcium and vitamin D, which will most certainly help you build stronger bones and prevent osteoporosis. What it comes down to is that removing coffee from your life will make you feel awful at first, but it's better in the long run. That being said, studies show the average American consumes 200 milligrams of caffeine a day between the food they eat and the liquids they drink. This is a little much, but probably won't kill you. However, if you take in 600 milligrams or the equivalent of 4 cups of coffee in a day, it could cause serious health problems. If this is you, it might be time to remove the addictive substance from your daily routine. What can cause your heart to work so hard that it stops beating? Junk food. What can cause your intestines to burst and spew their contents into your abdomen? Junk food. What can cause you to fall into a spiraling form of depression? You guessed it, junk food. Everyone craves junk food from time to time, but after learning what it does to your body, you might think twice before biting into a piece of fried chicken or snacking on some chips. Let's start off with what junk food actually is. Usually when you think of junk food, the first thing that comes to mind are candy, chips, and fast food. But you can't forget about the liquids like soda, slushies, and energy drinks. Fast food options have diversified recently, and even at places like Burger King and McDonald's, you're able to get plant-based meat substitutes and salads. However, pretty much all the things you crave at those types of joints are considered junk food. No one's going to KFC and asking for a salad with no dressing or croutons. They're there for that salty, fatty fried chicken. Therefore, when we're talking about junk food, what we're referring to is anything that has high amounts of added sugar, salt, or saturated fat in them. If you think about what you've eaten today, you can probably identify at least one item as being junk food. So, what are all these delicious yet unhealthy foods doing to your body? The short answer is nothing good. We're going to start with the short-term effects of eating only junk food before moving to the long-term health risks. Although long-term is relative, because if all you eat is junk food, you won't be alive long enough to even notice long-term effects. It's scary just how quickly junk food can change your body and cause serious health problems. Studies have shown that eating one meal made up of junk food a week can be detrimental to your health if you're not an active person. So can you imagine that only eating junk food every day will cause mayhem to all the systems in your body in a very short amount of time? The immediate effects of junk food are based on what you're consuming and how active you are. If you binge eat an entire bag of chips or a whole fried chicken, you're consuming a massive amount of sodium or salt. And after a very salty meal, your blood pressure might become elevated. This can cause all sorts of problems in the body, from fatigue to heart attacks. Obviously, a heart attack would be an extreme unlikelihood, and you would have to be very unhealthy for that to be a concern, but it is possible. This is especially true if you have a pre-existing heart condition or a non-active lifestyle. When you consume very salty junk food, it causes your blood vessels to constrict as the salt extracts water from them. There's a reason that over half of your body is made up of water. It plays a vital role in the circulation of all nutrient, cell function, and chemical reactions in the body. Eating extremely salty foods all the time can mess with your body's ability to maintain homeostasis or its internal balance. When your blood vessels constrict, your body needs to work harder to get oxygen and nutrients circulated to all your vital organs. On top of that, your arteries narrow, which then slows the flow of blood, exacerbating the situation even further. When all of these things happen as a result of eating too much salt, you begin to feel fatigued since your body is working harder than it should to keep you going. Now, you're probably going to want a soda to go with that salty food because you'll start to feel dehydrated. Plus, it'd be ridiculous not to have a dessert to finish off your meal, which leads to the next dangerous ingredient in the junk food you're eating: sugar. Your body craves this stuff because it's what your cells use to make energy. Therefore, you are biologically programmed to like the taste of things with sugar in them. Junk food companies understand that at some level and take advantage of your biological programming by increasing the amount of sugar in their products so they taste good to us. These types of foods might be delicious, but they have terrible side effects almost immediately after you consume them. The problem with bombarding your body with sugars from junk food is that it forces your body to try and balance the sudden influx of glucose. Your pancreas begins dumping insulin into your bloodstream to signal to your cells that sugar is available to make energy with. Your cells then allow the sugar into them, and the mitochondria converts it to energy, hence why it's considered a powerhouse of the cell. This leads to a sugar rush, which makes you feel like you have an abundance of energy. However, we all know what happens next. You crash. Any junk food that's high in added sugars will give you this rush and then leave you feeling tired, because your body panics and you quickly use up the influx of sugar, depleting it in a relatively short amount of time. When there's only a little sugar left in your bloodstream, your cells slow their energy production and it leads to you feeling fatigued and groggy. It can also lead to irritability and cravings for more sugary food. These are some of the most notable short-term side effects of eating junk food. However, the high sugar content of junk food has even worse long-term effects on your body. Each day that you consume junk food, you're at risk of developing a disease that could change your life forever. Let's get into the long-term health effects of consuming junk food so that you can learn the risks to your body and hopefully modify your diet. Over time, the high amounts of sugar in junk food wreak havoc on your organs. The sudden surge of sugar and the automatic response of the pancreas dumping insulin into the bloodstream can cause all types of long-term problems. Studies have shown that people who eat junk food a few times a week dramatically increase their chances of developing type 2 diabetes. And since you're only eating a junk food diet, you're all but guaranteed to develop this disease at some point. Type 2 diabetes occurs when your body doesn't produce enough insulin, or the insulin no longer signals your cells to take in sugar and use it to make energy. This leads to a buildup of sugar in the bloodstream while simultaneously causing a dramatic drop in energy production. Type 2 diabetes can develop during a person's lifetime isn't something you have to be born with. This ultimately leads to a pancreas being overworked or damaged due to an unhealthy diet or lifestyle. The high amounts of added sugar in junk food are one of the things that can cause this to occur. The crazy thing is that with every meal you eat that's made up of junk food, you're rolling the dice with developing type 2 diabetes. Research has shown that consistently eating junk food can greatly reduce your muscles' ability to take in sugars and create energy. Given enough time, your cells can develop a resistance to this process altogether, which results in type 2 diabetes and the need for medical intervention. Left untreated, diabetes can be life-threatening. Too much of a good thing can definitely be detrimental to your health, and there is no clearer example of this than overconsumption of sugars from junk food. But there are so many other components of junk food that can lead to long-term health problems. In fact, there's a connection between eating junk food and depression. How could consuming unhealthy food lead to a change in brain chemistry? It actually has more to do with what junk food is lacking than what's contained in it. A 2021 study out of Binghamton University found a connection between eating healthy foods such as fruits and vegetables, nuts and fish, and an increase in positive mood and brain function. This begs the question, what happens to someone's brain who lacks nutrients these foods contain? Another way to put it is this: if all you eat is junk food, low in nutrients, what will happen to your brain? Nothing good, it turns out. It has been determined that junk food satisfies hunger in the short term, which seems to make the brain happy, but this is just an illusion. The brain might be tricked into thinking you've gotten the nutrients you need from the junk food due to the increase in available energy. But over time, your brain and body cells will begin to degrade as they don't have access to the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants they need to stay healthy. Your body can only last so long on sugar and fat alone, and your brain eventually realizes this. It's not clear what exactly the trigger is, but some studies suggest that people who consistently eat junk food are around 51% more likely to develop depression than people on a healthy diet. This is a staggering number. It really makes you think if the short-term pleasures of eating junk food are worth the risk of developing long-term depression. The most likely reason this occurs is due to a mix of diet and lifestyle. If you're eating junk food all day every day, you're probably not very active. This has a cascading effect on the brain. The more junk food you eat, the worse you begin to feel. The chemistry of the brain is affected by these mood swings, might be one of the triggers that leads to depression. A healthy and active lifestyle has been shown to go a long way in maintaining happiness. But junk food doesn't only have long-term effects on your brain, it can also cause irreparable damage to your heart. In fact, the most shocking part about eating a lot of junk food is that it can kill you. So if you're on the junk food diet, what we're about to tell you could save your life. One of the long-term effects of all that salt and fats in the junk food is that they can increase the amount of low-density lipoprotein, also known as bad cholesterol, in your body. At the same time, these same substances can lower your high-density lipoprotein or good cholesterol. The result of these two shifts in cholesterol can lead to heart disease and even heart attack. It's the increase in bad cholesterol along with the increase in blood pressure associated with eating junk food that can put an enormous strain on your heart. The heart is a strong and resilient muscle, which is a good thing because it literally keeps blood, nutrients, and oxygen flowing around your body. Without a happy heart, you can't survive. However, like any of your muscles, it can become overworked and tired. The problem with this is that if your biceps get tired from lifting too much weight, it just means your workout's over. But if your heart becomes tired due to you gaining too much weight, a buildup of cholesterol and an increase in blood pressure means that you die. So you can see why it's so important to maintain a healthy lifestyle and a diet instead of loading up on junk food every day. It cannot be stressed enough how bad it is for your heart if all you eat is junk food. You'll likely be able to last a month or two on a junk food-only diet before your heart gives out completely. However, if you decide to change your ways and save your life, the damage has already been done. It'll be a long uphill battle to get back to healthy living. That being said, it most certainly can be done, and the sooner the better. The rest of your life will likely be spent monitoring your blood pressure and sodium levels. You'll probably have to choose everything that you put into your body carefully, but this will go a long way toward keeping your heart healthy. The American Heart Association recommends that adults consume less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, and this number is for someone who is relatively healthy and making good choices as to what they put into their body. If you're eating only junk food, you're likely not making good choices and consuming many times more sodium than recommended by the AHA. In fact, one full meal of junk food would be enough to put you over the threshold, as a bag of chips and a cheeseburger gets you around 2,000 milligrams of sodium between the two of them. If you're eating 3 meals a day filled with junk, you're consuming 3 times as much sodium as recommended. This is a recipe for disaster. All that salt will make you feel bloated and tired, which is your body's way of saying, knock it off with the junk food, or there will be some serious consequences. So, your junk food diet has now negatively affected your pancreas, brain, and heart. This should be enough to make you want to put down the candy bar and pick up a carrot. But if not, there is even worse damage to come. What if you couldn't poop? Not only would you be uncomfortable, but you'd have a buildup of waste in your system that could cause some really nasty problems. The main reason why junk food isn't great for your digestive system is that it lacks fiber. Fiber is a key component of a healthy bowel movement. High amounts of fiber are found in foods like fruits, veggies, beans, and oats. None of those ingredients are in your typical junk food diet. What that means is that all those fats, salts, and sugars you consume get backed up in your digestive tract, where they sit until they become too much for your body to handle, and they have to be evacuated. Unfortunately, they might not come out the end you want. But the real problems begin with the constipation that results from only eating junk food. Being constipated puts a lot of strain on your body, especially the digestive system, which can lead to hemorrhoids and hernias. It also has been found that junk food can be harmful to the microbiome in your body as well. You have trillions of little bacteria that do important jobs inside your guts, especially when it comes to digestion. This means you want to keep those microorganisms happy because if they're not, they can begin to cause you some serious problems. For example, if there are a lot of sugars and carbohydrates available, certain bacteria might begin to grow uncontrollably. Most often, the ones that do this are not the helpful microorganisms. This can lead to fewer resources for your helpful microbes. We're just beginning to understand how important a person's microbiome is, but according to some scientists, it plays a major role in several processes throughout the body. If your microbiome becomes damaged due to a poor diet, it could initially lead to a buildup of gases and incredibly painful cramps as harmful bacteria begin to reproduce inside of you. As time progresses, you might find yourself in need of a fecal transplant or any number of other unpleasant procedures to try to regrow that healthy microbiome once again. One of the most frightening risks to your digestive system as a result of consuming too much junk food is the development of diverticulitis. This disease happens when there's an infection or inflammation in your intestines. It can end up being incredibly painful and includes symptoms such as fever and nausea, as your body tries to fix the damage that's been done to it. The worst part is the pain doesn't go away overnight, and there's no quick fix. In extreme circumstances, peritonitis can occur, which is when an inflamed pouch in the digestive tract ruptures and spills its contents into your midsection. This requires immediate medical attention. If everything mentioned so far hasn't made you change your mind about eating only junk food, maybe cancer will. That's right, new research suggests that a diet full of junk food can actually increase your risk of cancer. In 2019, a study determined that a diet consisting of mainly junk food resulted in a weaker immune system, higher rates of inflammation, more risk of developing allergies, and higher cancer rates. Researchers think the low nutritional value of only eating junk food every day is what causes these problems to occur. If you only eat junk food, your risk for colon, rectal, respiratory tract, and stomach cancers all increase. Obviously, these are all extremely serious and life-threatening, which should give you another incentive to refine your eating habits. But some of the negative side effects of only eating junk food happen outside of your body. Eating high cholesterol foods with lots of carbs can increase acne. This doesn't just happen to teenagers going through puberty, but to anyone who constantly eats junk food. Even young children are at risk of skin diseases if they consume too much junk food. One study found that adolescents who eat junk 3 times a week are more likely to develop eczema than children on a healthy diet. These skin conditions are not life-threatening like many of the other effects of junk food on your body, but they can also become irritating and uncomfortable. Everything mentioned so far is an unpleasant consequence of a junk food diet. But there is something else that is unavoidable with this lifestyle. With high amounts of fat, sugar, and salts come high amounts of weight gain. Obesity is a major problem that results from consuming too much junk food. If you gain too much weight, your heart has to beat more frequently to circulate blood around your body. Your lungs need to suck in more air to get you the oxygen you need, and your muscles need more energy to support your weight. Any of these factors can eventually become too much for the body to handle and cause it to shut down. Eating junk food has also been connected to an increase in respiratory illnesses, including asthma. This goes hand in hand with obesity, as the airways and channels of your circulatory and respiratory systems become constricted or blocked. All of these factors increase your chances of having a heart attack, suffering a stroke, or developing diabetes. And the larger you become, the more calories your body will need to keep itself going. This means that you'll need to eat more, and if you continue to eat only junk food, there's only one inevitable outcome. An organ in your body will fail and you will die. So, what it comes down to is that you need to relinquish your junk food diet immediately and switch to a healthy alternative. We're not saying you can't eat any junk food. In fact, some research suggests that indulging in junk food occasionally might help you with weight loss and can be a morale booster. However, there is absolutely no benefit to eating only junk food. So the recommendation by some nutritionists is to allow yourself a junk food meal once every week or 2 and savor it. But once you've had your fix, you should go back to eating healthy alternatives. That being said, there are definitely some junk food options that are worse for you than others. Here are 5 different ones that you probably didn't know were causing your body distress. Pizza is delicious, there's no denying it. However, not all pizza is created equal. An average slice can contain 680 milligrams of sodium, 12 grams of fat, and 300 calories. And when was the last time you had just one slice when you ordered pizza? To be fair, there are some pizzas that are made with more fresh ingredients and less grease than others, which adds nutritional value while reducing the junk part of the food. On the other hand, a fast food meal of burgers and fries has very little upside to it. One of those meals can consist of 1,200 calories and up to 1,700 milligrams of sodium, and that's not even counting drinks or dessert that you probably will have with it. Basically, one fast food burger puts you very close to your recommended daily dose of sodium and saturated fats, so hopefully everything else you eat that day is made up of plants and fruit. You might think having a homemade sandwich might be a healthy alternative to eating out at a fast food restaurant, but this might not necessarily be the case. Cold-cut meats can contain large amounts of sodium. 3 ounces of processed meat can have up to 1,300 milligrams of sodium, which means that if you're consuming a large deli sub every day for lunch, those sodium levels might lead to your blood pressure potentially skyrocketing. Also, some research suggests that when lunch meats aren't processed or stored properly, they can contain nitrates and nitrites, which are known carcinogens. To put it plainly, processed meats might cause cancer. If you ever watched a hot dog eating contest, you probably wondered how the contestants can have so much of the universally loved fast food treat. What you probably didn't know is that one hot dog can contain half the amount of saturated fat you're supposed to consume in one day. Also, hot dogs are full of sodium to the point where a single hot dog can make up 33% of your allotted daily sodium intake. This means those people who are eating dozens of hot dogs in a sitting are literally consuming enough junk food to last them for months. This might be an activity that has one of the worst long-term effects on the body out of any competition in the world. You can put anything that's fried into the junk food category, and one of the most common fried foods is chicken. It's not the calories that make fried chicken so unhealthy, but the amount of fat and salt in it. One piece of fried chicken can contain 34 grams of fat and 1,200 plus milligrams of sodium. After just 2 pieces of fried chicken, you probably overshot your recommended fat and sodium intake for the day. So what is a junk food lover to do? We're going to say this again because it's so important. Eating a junk food-only diet will end up killing you in one way or another. Depending on who you are and how active your lifestyle is, you might be able to live a couple of months if you only eat junk food. However, most medical professionals agree that your body would give up sometime between 1 and 10 weeks if all you ate was junk food. If you really need to get your junk food fix from time to time, that's okay. Just don't do it every day. Most nutritionists agree that having a cheat meal every now and then is alright as long as the majority of your meals consist of healthy food. In order to protect yourself and the people you care about from succumbing to one of those nasty side effects of eating too much junk food, there are a couple of things that can be done. Education is always key. Make sure to read the food labels of the things you put into your body. You might be surprised to find your favorite snack is incredibly high in salt or sugar, and it might be time to cut back a bit. Also, it's important that kids from a young age begin to think about what's healthy versus what's not. Many people who rely heavily on junk food for sustenance were never taught about the detrimental effects it can have on their bodies. Therefore, cooking meals with lots of vegetables, fruits, lean meats, and fish is a great way to start introducing others to delicious foods that are good for them. When making decisions about your own diet, some nutritionists recommend using the 80-20 rule. This means 80% of the food you eat should be healthy and full of nutrients, while 20% can be from the junk food realm. Ideally, you want to find healthy foods that you enjoy and satisfy your hunger so that more than 80% of your daily intake is from those sources, but this is not always possible. Even if you try and eat one healthy meal every day, it can have a huge impact on your overall health. Any reduction in junk food is going to be good for you, no matter how small. As a rule of thumb, if you're trying to stay away from junk food, you should cut out fried food, highly processed food, and anything with added salt or sugar from your diet. And if you're just not sure what the best options are, don't be afraid to ask your doctor. They'll be able to point you in the right direction. Ever since Game of Thrones The Mountain revealed his incredible 10,000 calorie daily diet, doing a 10,000 calorie meal has become a sort of ritual of passage for YouTube stars. That's when we thought, hey, wait, we've got a YouTube star of our own, everyone's favorite infographics lab rat, and since he's on the payroll, we can make him do whatever we want. So forget 10,000 calories in one meal, we're putting YouTube's most expendable writer on a 10K calorie diet for an entire week. Day 1. I'm excited for this challenge. I mean, I love eating. It's probably my favorite thing to do. In fact, I have to actively try to not eat just so I can stay in shape. This is literally the challenge I've been waiting for, and the challenge the girlfriend has probably liked the least. She told me that if I did this challenge, then it wouldn't be junk food. If I was going to try the Mountain's incredible diet, then I had better do it the same way he does, which means 10,000 calories of mostly healthy stuff and a whole lot of exercise. And you know what? I'm into it. I'm willing to give it a go, except there's a twist. Infographics is offering me another $200 incentive to put a quote fun spin end quote on the challenge for each additional mini challenge I undertake. There's 5 of these additional challenges, and I don't get to find out what they are until I open the envelope with each challenge inside it. For each one I manage to complete, I get an extra $200, which is a good thing because we did some calculations and this is gonna rake up one hell of a grocery bill. I mean, Infographics is footing the bill, I'm filing that under expenses, but still, it's going to be significant. We went to the grocery store yesterday and stocked up on beef, chicken, fish, a ton of pasta, milk, like 6 cartons of eggs, A literal pound of cheese. My 1-week cart looked like what we might go through in a month. What a delicious challenge ahead of me. Okay, so I figured I'd open one envelope a day, and the first one is simply replicate the mountain's workout along with the diet. Sounds easy enough. I'll report it at the end of the day. End of day 1. Alright, I'm feeling, I don't know yet. Very, very full would be a good answer, but also my body's about ready to die from replicating the mountain's workout. I guess it makes sense. You can't eat as much as this and not get crazy fat unless you're exercising and putting all those calories to use. So for breakfast I had 8 eggs, a bowl of oats, like 2 bushes worth of strawberries, blueberries, and avocados, and then it was off to a local CrossFit place to start the mountain's workout. In case you haven't heard of CrossFit, and none of your friends do it because if they did, they'd be talking about it constantly and never shut up about how awesome it is. Basically, CrossFit's a lifestyle choice. I'm not kidding, that's literally what trainers say the moment you step through the door. You do a lot of strength and aerobic training, lose a bunch of weight, and get real strong. But you do it doing things like hitting tires with hammers or dragging tires around or flipping tires over and over again and again and again. Yeah, it's a lot of tire stuff. Though my personal favorite at this local CrossFit place, literally dragging a ship's anchor behind you as you sprint. I guess since we're so close to the beach, it's just keeping on theme. At least it's not a tire. Just kidding, they do that too. I mean, there's regular exercises too, like weight benches and free weights and stuff, but CrossFit, or at least CrossFit in LA, loves to improvise. So instead of a 50-pound weight, you throw around a giant industrial fire extinguisher. It's, well, I guess it's certainly more interesting than a normal workout when you're improvising everything you're lifting, dragging, or pushing. I should have probably taken notes, but I was so exhausted I would have completely forgotten to, but basically I feel I did every variation of every exercise known to man. And if this is how the mountain trains, wow, no wonder he's a contender for world's strongest man. In order to stay on diet, I had to stop in the middle of the exercise and eat a ton of nuts and berries. More juicy calories down the gullet to fuel my Superman workout. When it was finally time for lunch, I had a ton of protein powder with full-fat milk, chicken pasta that I had meal prepped the day before, and copious amounts of yogurt. Honestly, I'm not sure how I'm keeping it all down, especially when half an hour later I was back to hurling heavy ropes around and flipping tires over for hours on end. By the time night came, I definitely earned an extra $200. Let me put it this way, the mountain is the mountain for a reason. The dude's a beast, and if you want to replicate his workout, maybe don't dive straight into it the way I did. I'm not sure I'll be able to get out of bed tomorrow. I feel a lot of sore muscles coming on. Day 2. I was right. I could barely move today. I effectively annihilated every muscle in my body yesterday, but the challenge must go on, and luckily eating doesn't require much exercise. I decided I could definitely do another challenge as long as it wasn't physical, and luckily for me this challenge was to eat 10,000 calories of vegetables and fruits. Wait, sorry, did I say lucky? I meant, you know what, it's not a word I'm allowed to say on YouTube because we'll get demonetized. You know what's better than the 5 to 7 servings of fruit and veggies you're supposed to get a day? 30 extra large servings, which is what me and the girlfriend very roughly estimated would take to accomplish 10,000 calories in one day. Okra, carrots, squash, oranges, beans of all sorts, corn. I think I ate every vegetable and or fruit known to man today. Honestly, the simplest thing to do was to go to the store and buy like 5 cans of Bush's baked beans. Those things weigh in at 150 calories per half a cup a serving, and you can pack a lot of servings into one of those restaurant-sized cans. Also, I fried every vegetable I could, though the girlfriend made me use olive oil, so that cut down on the calories. I even tried frying some of the fruit, just out of sheer eating boredom, but that was a terrible idea. I literally ate all day, because to get 10,000 calories worth of vegetables and fruits, you have to really beat the clock. Day 3. Okay, my body isn't quite as dead as it was yesterday, and I can move without every muscle screaming at me to get back into bed. I'm legitimately starting to dread breakfast. It's kind of become a chore. I have to figure out how to hit 10,000 calories every single day, so I have to break it down by meal, and I really hate math. Thankfully, eggs are pretty full of calories, so I whipped up a 6-egg omelet with all the fixins, and I do mean all the fixins, and then scarfed it down with 4 pieces of heavily buttered toast and chocolate milk. And that was like 1,500 calories right there. New day, new mini challenge. I opened up my envelope for the day, and my new challenge was eat 10,000 calories of bacon. Okay, I should have probably opened the envelope before having my first meal of the day, so I'm gonna have to eat an extra 1,500 calories today. So here's a surprise, I did some bacon research before heading off to the grocery store and discovered that baking bacon actually makes it have more calories than frying it in a pan. If someone can explain the science of that, I'm listening. Alright, so one slice of bacon is 43 calories, give or take, which meant I had to eat a whopping 233 slices throughout the day to hit 10 calories. That's a lot of bacon. And it was a lot of frying. Except I went with baking the bacon instead because A, it was easier and faster to cook dozens of slices at a time that way, and B, it has a higher calorie count than pan frying. I didn't just sit down and eat this mountain of bacon all at one go, of course. That would be insane. I just ate strips throughout my entire day. Literally all day long I was snacking on strips of bacon because that's how much bacon it takes to eat 10,000 calories. The girlfriend was terrified about the salt content, and she's probably right to worry, so I drank a ton of water too so that it would help flush it out of my system. Whether that was good enough or not, I suspect I'll find out in a week or two when the real health implications of all this are made apparent. Day 4. Okay, day 4. Only this time I opened the challenge envelope before I ate breakfast, which was a good call. Today I had to eat 10,000 calories of only liquid foods, and the challenge came with a ton of suggestions on what to drink because I think infographics is as concerned about the salt content of all the bacon I ate on the previous day as the girlfriend was. Basically, today I'm not allowed an ounce of salt, and the girlfriend was there to make sure that this rule was enforced. Also, everything had to be liquid. I took out our juicer and prepared it early in the morning for what would probably be the hardest day of its life. So what did I eat? Fruit smoothies, vegetable smoothies, a whole lot of weight gain workout powders, which all taste disgusting. Honestly, today was the easiest day so far of eating 10,000 calories. The juices definitely went through me faster than solid food. Although it was by far the worst tasting day. Workout protein powders are like the best way to drink your way to 10 calories, but they all taste like elephant ass. How is it that we can put men on the moon, but we can't make protein shakes taste good? Day 5. Alright, infographics definitely saved the best for last. But before I tell you about my 5th mini challenge, let me talk to you about your toilet. Your toilet is your friend. It's there when you're happy, it's there when you're sad. It literally takes all your crap and never complains, flushing it away and out of your life. You know what happens when you eat 10,000 calories a day for a whole week? Your toilet starts to not be your friend anymore. Your toilet gets tired of taking your crap. Again, literally. Your toilet breaks down. I imagine that the reason for this is obvious in most of you, our dear viewers' minds. 10,000 calories that get put into your body have to come back out somehow, and that's put a hell of a strain on our simple suburban toilet. I imagine that the Mountain and other mega athletes on these super diets must have industrial toilets especially built to handle the load. I went ahead and added the cost of a plumber to my expense report for the infographics. Their dumb challenge idea, their plumber bill as far as I'm concerned. Also, I swear I heard the plumber whisper a prayer before shutting the door behind him in the bathroom. So, mini challenge, not gonna lie, probably one of my favorites ever. Today I had to eat 10,000 calories of desserts. Yes, desserts, literally my favorite thing in the entire world. I was like a kid on Christmas morning, rushing to the grocery store to purchase any and every type of cake, cream puff, and muffin they had available. The girlfriend, of course, was not nearly so thrilled about all this, but this was my challenge and I was determined to complete it. I promised to buy her something nice with the extra $200. Or I would have, if I could have completed it. Listen, eating all the cake and sweets you can stuff in your mouth sounds easy until you realize just how much 10,000 calories really is. Also, the sugar content is insane, and by the time I had wolfed down a lemon meringue pie and a chocolate cheesecake and an entire sheet of cinnamon rolls, I was ready to have a diabetic coma. I managed to power my way through a coconut cream pie and another cheesecake before I had to call it quits. By our approximation, I hit 8,000 calories but simply couldn't stomach 2,000 more. Honestly, I think it's all that fat and sugar content, or maybe my body just can't handle extreme amounts of food anymore. Either way, I had to fight not to vomit everything I'd eaten over the course of the day up, and ultimately, I put up my white flag and declared defeat. I didn't quite make it, but I did finish 4 out of 5 mini challenges and got to experience the insanity of a super diet. Also, I ate our entire month's grocery shopping in just 1 week, and I'm pretty sure I can't ever speak to our plumber. Now it's time to take it easy and work off the 4 pounds I gained in just this 1 week. The girlfriend is picking the menu for the rest of the month, and she promised plenty of fruits and veggies to fix all the damage this diet did on my body, and you know what? I'm okay with that. You're at your local watering hole. You order your favorite drink, tip the bartender, and take your first sip. The cool liquid hits your lips and enters your body. In the next few minutes, a bunch of crazy chemical reactions will occur. Over the next several minutes and hours, your body will swell, you'll lose control of your bladder and bowels, and you could black out and die. 1 minute after you drink alcohol. The alcohol flows down your throat and into your stomach. What happens next depends on who you are, what you've done that day, and if you've eaten recently. When the alcohol enters your stomach, it's either absorbed through your stomach lining into your bloodstream, or released into your intestines, where it'll diffuse into your circulatory system. Either way, the alcohol will be spreading around your body in a matter of minutes. If you ate recently, this process is slowed down as some of the alcohol is absorbed by the food being digested in your stomach. However, your stomach and intestines cannot metabolize or break down alcohol, so it will eventually end up in your bloodstream anyway. 3 minutes after you drink alcohol. More and more alcohol from your drink seeps into your bloodstream and enters cells through your body. This causes several reactions to occur, but it's unlikely you'll feel their effects at this point. However, some pretty strange stuff will happen to your body in the minutes to come. Some will feel good, while others will make you wish you've never put a drop of booze into your body. The alcohol percentage in your drink plays a role in how quickly it diffuses into your bloodstream. Surprisingly, liquors that have an alcohol percentage between 20 and 30% are absorbed more quickly than drinks with a higher alcohol percentage. This means a glass of port, which is around 20% alcohol, will get you drunker faster than a drink with whiskey, vodka, or rum in it. These types of liquors tend to be above 35% alcohol. They will most certainly get you drunk, but they're not absorbed into your bloodstream as quickly as drinks with alcohol percentages in the 20% range. 5 minutes after you drink alcohol. You're starting to feel the effects of the alcohol on your body. The fact that you mix your alcohol with a carbonated beverage means it enters your bloodstream slightly faster than other drinks. Cocktails like rum and cokes, gin and tonics, and vodka sodas will all be absorbed into your bloodstream quicker than if those liquors were consumed without a mixer. It's at this point your brain starts to feel the effects of the alcohol. You're not quite drunk yet, but you are definitely on your way. Chemical changes are happening in your body and they will alter your mood, senses, and balance. 10 minutes after you drink alcohol. You gulp down the last remnants of your beverage and order another one. While you wait, the alcohol from your first drink is changing the size of your blood vessels. They begin to widen, which causes your skin to become flush and turn a reddish color. It looks like you're blushing or having a slight allergic reaction, but this is all just a normal reaction to drinking alcohol. You pull at your shirt as you begin to feel warmer. This is because alcohol is a vasodilator, meaning it opens up blood vessels such as capillaries just under the surface of your skin. The more blood that flows to the surface of your body, the warmer you feel. At the same time, your blood pressure begins to drop for a short period of time. And even though you initially feel warmer, the changes to your blood flow are actually causing your internal temperature to drop as blood moves away from your body's core. The female body reacts slightly differently than the male body when alcohol is consumed. The average female has less body water in their system to dilute the alcohol that's being absorbed into their bloodstream. This results in a higher blood alcohol concentration occurring more quickly in women than men. Females also produce less alcohol dehydrogenase on average, which is an important enzyme the liver creates to break down ethanol. This means that if a male and female around the same weight and size start drinking the same alcoholic beverage simultaneously, the woman will likely begin to feel the effects of the alcohol first. 15 minutes after you drink alcohol. Now you start to feel pretty good. The alcohol is playing mind games with you. It's caused the release of dopamine and serotonin, which make you feel happy, more confident, and ready to try new things. This is because both dopamine and serotonin are neurotransmitters that allow for more connections between brain cells. Serotonin is known to make people feel calm and content, while dopamine is associated with feelings of being rewarded or motivated. The alcohol causes your body to release these hormones in higher concentrations than normal, which then alters your mood. At the same time, it suppresses certain parts of your nervous system. This is the reason why your speech begins to slur, you feel less coordinated, and your vision becomes impaired. As you sip on another drink, the levels of the hormones inside your body become even more imbalanced. You begin to make decisions and do things that you wouldn't normally while sober. You become bolder and throw inhibition to the wind. It's at this point you start to feel buzzed or drunk. This is your body's way of telling you something is not quite right. But since it feels good at the time, you ignore those warning signs. You begin to stagger around as your balance is thrown off. The influx of dopamine and serotonin allows you to come out of your cocoon, and you soon become a social butterfly. 20 minutes after you drink alcohol. Your liver has now started to process the alcohol flowing through your body. It's a slow process, which is why the effects of drinking can last so long. On average, the liver can metabolize around 1 ounce of alcohol every hour. In most mixed drinks, you're consuming at least 2 ounces of alcohol, and chances are you're having more than one drink during a night out. This means that if your blood alcohol level reaches 0.08, which is the legal limit, it can take around 5.5 hours for your liver to remove all of it from your system. As your liver works overtime to break down the poison you're putting into your body, you continue to talk to everyone you come across and make new friends. With every breath, you exhale some of the alcohol in your system. This is why you can literally smell alcohol on someone's breath after they've been drinking. By the time your body completely breaks down the alcohol flowing through your bloodstream, you will have breathed out around 8% of the total alcohol you consumed. The alcohol gets into your breath by diffusing out of the blood and passing through your lungs. This is the same way that your body releases carbon dioxide. It's this evaporated alcohol that's released by your respiratory system that breathalyzers use to calculate blood alcohol levels. Even if you mask the scent of the alcohol using gum or mints, the molecules are still being released in your breath. You might be able to hide the smell from another person, but this will never trick a breathalyzer. 25 minutes after you drink alcohol. You now look a little red in the cheeks. You have a slight cognitive impairment and are releasing alcohol from your lungs like a fire-breathing dragon. But while all this is happening, you also have the irresistible urge to go pee. You race to the bathroom before you have an accident in your pants to relieve yourself. If you don't make it in time, you can blame it on the alcohol, but you'll still need to change clothes. The alcohol in your blood suppresses the creation of the antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, that's produced by the body. ADH signals the kidneys to reduce the amount of water they're releasing, and now that there's less of this important molecule being produced, your kidneys are flooding your systems with more and more water. This causes you to have to urinate frequently as a way of excreting the excess water. However, it also can cause another nasty side effect. Other than being at risk of peeing your pants, the suppression of ADH by alcohol can also lead to dehydration. As you release more and more fluids by peeing constantly, your body is unable to retain the water it needs for cellular and life processes. This is one of the reasons it's important to drink water with every alcoholic beverage you have. If you don't replenish your fluids while drinking, it can lead to headaches, exhaustion, and a nasty hangover the next day. It's also important to note that even if you are mixing your alcohol with another liquid, this will never be enough to keep you hydrated. You should also steer clear of sodas and sugary drinks, as they can only exacerbate the hidden problem of dehydration. Your best bet for replenishing your body's fluids is to drink water, and lots of it. Yes, this might cause you to pee even more, but as long as you keep drinking water, your body will be able to break down and excrete the alcohol in your system while maintaining somewhat stable fluid levels. 30 minutes after you drink alcohol. Now that your body has released some of your water stores, it makes it slightly more difficult for some cellular processes to occur. H2O is a vital component in most reactions in your body. Your liver is the only organ that can actually break down the alcohol, and it is working overtime to try to eliminate the poison that's circulating through your system. Because that's what alcohol is, you're essentially poisoning yourself. It just happens to make you feel good. That being said, almost anything in moderation is okay, and that goes for alcohol as well. Too much alcohol can definitely kill you, but so can too much sugar, salt, and water. At this point, your liver starts to oxidize the alcohol and convert it into water and acetaldehyde. This molecule can cause problems for your body later on in life, but right now, it's the only way that the alcohol can be removed from your system. The more you drink, the longer this process takes, and the higher your blood alcohol content will be. It's the inability of your liver to keep up with the amount of alcohol you're consuming that leads to alcohol poisoning. As you continue to drink, your body continues to try to keep you alive. Something terrible is happening to your brain. At first, the alcohol makes you feel good, but behind this illusion, damage is being done to your brain cells. What happens next could determine whether you live or die. 45 minutes after you drink alcohol. Your choices while drinking matter. If you've consumed several drinks very quickly, your blood alcohol levels will be high. If you have been sipping on a drink or two throughout your time at the bar, your blood alcohol levels will be relatively low. This doesn't mean you won't become drunk, it just means you've given your body time to break down some of the alcohol before consuming more. Your blood alcohol level determines how much damage is being done to your brain. Subliminal intoxication is the first stage of being drunk. It occurs when your blood alcohol content reaches between 0.01 and 0.05. You might not look intoxicated at this point, but you are definitely getting there. Your reaction time has slowed and your judgment has been altered slightly. Everyone's body is different, which means people will respond differently to the amount of alcohol in their system. But as you pass this first stage, you will develop the telltale signs of someone who is intoxicated. At a blood alcohol content of between 0.012 and 0.03, you're in the euphoria stage of becoming drunk. This is when the body has raised dopamine levels, and you're feeling pretty good. It's at this point that you feel buzzed or tipsy. Your reasoning and memory become impaired, and you feel confident and relaxed. Many people try to achieve this by having a drink to wind down after work. However, if you continue drinking, you will inevitably pass into the next zone of inebriation. As your body reaches a blood alcohol content of over 0.08, you're now considered legally intoxicated. It's when your blood alcohol content reaches 0.09 to 0.25 that the connections within your occipital lobe, temporal lobe, and your frontal lobe are highly affected. This can cause blurred vision and impaired decision-making. Your reaction time becomes immensely slower than normal, which makes doing basic tasks more difficult and even dangerous. You should not be driving a car or engaging in any activities that could potentially put yourself or others at risk. It's around this level that you might begin to feel nauseous as your body tries to lower the amount of alcohol in your system any way possible. If you reach a blood alcohol content of between 0.18 and 0.3, many parts of your brain struggle to function properly. The cerebellum, which is the area responsible for coordination, is especially impacted negatively. This is why when your blood alcohol content reaches these levels, you might have trouble walking. You might even black out or have short-term memory loss due to damage to your hippocampus. Anything over a blood alcohol level of 0.25 means you're in danger of developing alcohol poisoning. Every one of your senses is impaired, and there's a chance you could suffocate or sustain internal injuries. Once you reach levels of 0.35, you're at risk of entering a coma. This is because your breathing and circulation have become compromised due to your nervous system shutting down. It's at this point you could actually die, as critical areas of the brain that control breathing and heart rate stop functioning properly. Again, the time it takes to reach these different levels of intoxication is determined by a person's body, the type and quantity of alcohol they consumed, and how fast they've been drinking. But regardless of all that, if someone has been going hard on the booze for close to an hour, their blood alcohol levels will likely be pretty high. 60 minutes after you drink alcohol. Your body has been working overtime to break down the alcohol in your system. The shot of liquor you had at the beginning of the night has been dealt with. However, your liver still needs another hour to deal with the alcohol in that beer you drank. Luckily, you didn't have a large glass of wine, as the alcohol in that beverage can take up to 3 hours to completely be broken down. If you have been drinking consistently for an hour and you continue to do so, your blood alcohol level is sure to rise. You'll feel the levels of intoxication, and if you aren't careful, you could do serious damage to your body. 3 hours after you drink alcohol. You're home now. You feel exhausted. Your body aches slightly, and all you want to do is go to bed. Unfortunately, as you lie awake staring at the ceiling, you find you're having trouble falling asleep. The room is spinning, which makes you nauseous, and even if you don't throw up, it'll be a restless night. The alcohol in your system interferes with your brain transitioning from being awake to REM sleep. That's when your body does a lot of its repairs, and the brain converts short-term memories to long-term ones. One of the reasons you can't remember everything that happened after a night of drinking is because the alcohol you consumed disrupts the process. REM sleep is also the stage of sleep when you dream, and alcohol has been shown to do some incredibly weird things to your dreams. Consuming alcohol before sleeping has been connected to people having more vivid dreams and even nightmares. It's not clear why this happens, but it likely has to do with damage caused to brain cells or interference between neural pathways. You might have had a fun night out drinking with your friends, but as you toss and turn all night and have strange dreams, you will likely curse your past self for making such bad decisions. The morning after you drink alcohol. You wake up feeling like crap. You definitely overdid it the night before. To be fair, if you had only had a drink or two spaced out over the evening, you'd probably feel completely fine. But you went hard and drank a bit past your limit. Your blood sugar is low and you're dehydrated. These factors put a lot of stress on your brain, causing a killer headache to develop. Another side effect of the imbalances in your body is an increase in anxiety levels. You may have thrown inhibition to the wind the previous night, but now you're questioning every decision you made and hating yourself for overindulging. Even though you didn't black out, you can't remember the entire night. This is not because the alcohol causes you to forget memories, but it impedes your brain's ability to create new memories while you're drunk. As you struggle to remember what happened the night before, your stomach starts to grumble, your eyes open wide. You run to the bathroom and make it just in time. An explosion of diarrhea escapes your body. The alcohol you consumed the previous day has increased acid in your stomach, which has caused your stomach lining to become inflamed. On top of that, your body has been suppressing the production of the antidiuretic hormone for several hours. This has caused more and more liquid to build up in the intestines, which results in bad diarrhea the morning after a night of drinking. Now you have one mission in life: drink lots of water and force yourself to eat something. You need to make sure you replenish any fluids that are either lost from vomiting or diarrhea. On top of that, you need to consume some form of food, preferably something starchy, to soak up any remaining alcohol in your digestive system. The following days, weeks, and months after you drink alcohol. Having an alcoholic drink every now and then will likely have very minimal effects on your body. Even if you have a drink a few times a week, as long as it's in moderation, your body probably won't develop any adverse health conditions. However, having multiple drinks every day or binge drinking on weekends has been linked to several severe health problems. Consuming large amounts of alcohol can greatly increase your risk for certain types of cancers. The most well-known ones are liver and colon cancer. However, alcohol also increases your chances of developing throat, larynx, and cancer of the esophagus. Ethanol, the molecule that makes up alcohol, is not a carcinogen in and of itself. However, when your body breaks down the alcohol into acetaldehyde, this is where things can get dicey. The International Agency for Research on Cancer identifies acetaldehyde as a Group 2 carcinogen. This means that when you're drinking too much, your body produces a known carcinogen. And if you do this too often, you're rolling the dice with cancer. Your body can remove dangerous molecules such as acetaldehyde from your system, but only if you give it enough time to carry out the process. The more alcohol you consume in a short period of time, the more acetaldehyde builds up in your body, and the more likely you are to develop cancer. Heavy drinking has also been connected to an increased risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. All of these things can be life-threatening. It's the stress you put on your brain and body when consuming large quantities of alcohol that leads to these factors developing. When drinking, your heart needs to work harder to circulate the blood around your body, so the alcohol can be broken down and removed. At the same time, alcoholic drinks can contain high amounts of calories and carbohydrates. This can lead to weight gain as a result of drinking too much. All of these factors combined put even more stress on the heart. The damage done to brain cells and pathways within the brain by alcohol can lead to memory problems and dementia, and this is in full-grown adults. Children and teens whose minds are still developing can become stunted if they consume alcohol. This can lead to learning disabilities and the underdevelopment of their brains. These side effects are one of the main reasons why the drinking age is 21 in the US. It's around this age that the brain has been fully developed. Although this is still debated, many scientists believe the brain isn't fully developed until you turn 25. Regardless, even a developed brain can be damaged by drinking too much alcohol. There's also some research that suggests drinking can weaken your immune system. This could leave you vulnerable to viruses and bacteria that often frequent bars or anywhere where large numbers of people gather. And even if you're drinking at home, alcohol can inhibit your immune system to the point where you become more susceptible to colds or the flu. Normally, your body would easily fight off these pathogens, but overconsumption of alcohol can hinder your immune system to the point that even a small cold makes you very sick. Alcoholism is a disease and an addiction. Alcohol can fundamentally change your brain chemistry, making you dependent on the substance. This addiction can happen to anyone and is influenced by genetic, psychological, social, and environmental factors. If you or someone you know is dependent on alcohol or overconsuming the substance on a regular basis, you should talk to a medical professional immediately. Drinking socially or having an alcoholic beverage every now and then and in moderation will probably not cause you any harm. However, it's important to know exactly how it affects your body and what signs to look out for. Remember, your body needs time to break down alcohol. This is a slow process, and it's why you should pace yourself and drink a lot of water during a night of drinking. There are two very different stories when it comes to steroids. The first is one of hope. The other is one of overindulgence and addiction. There are types of steroids that can save your life. However, when steroids are taken in excess and without the approval of a medical professional, they can also lead to your death. Which type of steroid should you never put in your body? Let's find out. At a basic level, steroids are synthetically created hormones that the adrenal glands in your body produce normally. Hormones are chemical messengers that tell your cell which biological processes they should carry out. For example, the hormone insulin signals your cell to take in more sugar from your bloodstream and use it to create energy. The human body also uses hormones such as testosterone and estrogen to signal different physiological changes during someone's life. These hormones can also aid in the growth of muscles, which will come into play later. Corticosteroids are the steroids most often prescribed by doctors due to their anti-inflammatory properties. They have a number of applications and can aid in recovery of countless medical conditions. The other more dangerous type of steroids are anabolic androgenic steroids. These are the steroids that bodybuilders and athletes use to enhance their muscle strength and performance. It's these types of steroids that can be dangerous if used incorrectly. First, let's understand why steroids, if used properly, can help you or even save your life. Again, remember that most steroids need to be prescribed by a doctor to ensure the right dosage and type of steroid is given. You're struggling to breathe. Every time you take in air, it feels like your windpipe has been sealed shut. You scramble for your inhaler and fumble it. The precious device falls to the ground. Your lungs feel like they're going to explode as you reach down to pick up the device. You stick the inhaler in your mouth and push down. A cool, moist mixture of air is forced down your throat. For a moment, you hold your breath and then, with a sigh of relief, you breathe out and you can now gulp down the much-needed air. Your chest heaves up and down as your lungs once again bring in oxygen and release CO2. People with asthma suffer from long-term chronic inflammation and swollen muscles in their airways. When the airway becomes inflamed, the body also produces extra mucus, all of which blocks the airway and causes difficulty breathing. It's the swollen muscles that the mixture of steroids and bronchodilators and an inhaler help to relieve. The anti-inflammatory effects of steroids allows the muscles to relax and the person to begin breathing normally again. When steroids bind to the membranes of muscle cells in the throat, they signal the cells to shrink in size through a series of biological processes. This causes the swelling in the throat to go down and allows the person to breathe normally again. It's absolutely terrifying for those several seconds that someone is having an asthma attack and can't breathe. their body is literally choking them to death and depriving them of the oxygen they so desperately need. An asthma attack can become life-threatening without the aid of the anti-inflammatory signals the steroids and inhalers send to the muscle cells. This is just one way steroids can be used to save lives. Doctors can prescribe steroids for a number of different reasons. Many times they're used to relieve uncomfortable conditions that can arise in the body but might not be life-threatening. However, without them, people would be in an incredible amount of pain and discomfort. So you're sitting at home when your eczema begins itching like crazy. The condition is caused by an overactive immune system along with environmental factors that affect the skin. As you scratch and try to relieve the discomfort, it feels like your skin is on fire. The swollen part of your body becomes so inflamed that you just want to cut off the entire body part and be done with it. Luckily, the doctor prescribed you steroids to help reduce the inflammation and return the skin to its normal state. The steroids can either be taken in pill form or by rubbing a cream on the infected area. If taken orally, the pills are broken down in the digestive tract and then diffuse into the bloodstream, where they're carried around your body by the circulatory system. When they reach the inflamed site, the steroids bind to the muscle and skin cells and signal them to carry out the process to reduce inflammation. Similarly, when a cream containing steroids is applied directly to the body, they bind to the skin cells and suppress the immune response that's causing the irritation and inflammation. Although eczema is uncomfortable, there's another disease that is much more painful and even life-threatening that steroids can help with. For inflammatory bowel diseases such as Crohn's and IBS, steroids can help reduce some of the most intense discomforts of someone's life. These diseases cause the gastrointestinal tract to become inflamed, resulting in truly nasty side effects. Medical professionals are not entirely sure what the exact cause of Crohn's or other inflammatory bowel diseases is, but the swelling in this region of the body is due to the fact that the immune system is attacking the cells, which causes irritation and swelling. Doctors think these conditions might be caused by a virus or a bacteria infecting the cells in the gastrointestinal tract, but no single pathogen has been identified as a culprit yet. In these situations, doctors will prescribe steroids that reduce the swelling in the intestines and bowels to allow waste to pass through the system more easily. If left untreated, the excretory system might become backed up with waste, which would eventually start to poison the body. In these circumstances, bowel inflammation can become life-threatening, and surgery must be conducted to remove the scarred tissue causing the blockage. Before this point, however, doctors will prescribe steroids to aid in reducing inflammation and get the swelling under control. When the steroids bind to the cells in the colon and the intestinal tissue, they suppress the immune system in the region, allowing the inflammation to go down and waste to flow out of the body. There are some side effects to taking steroids prescribed by doctors, such as an increase in appetite, mood changes, and difficulty sleeping. These are all a result of the chemical composition in your body being changed by the steroids and the process they trigger. Don't forget that steroids mimic hormones, which signal changes to occur in the cells of your body, and although steroids might be used for the anti-inflammatory properties, they also change the chemical levels in your body, which will inevitably affect multiple organs and tissues. This brings us to the really nasty things that steroids can do to you. You have probably heard that people who abuse steroids can have lower sperm count or suddenly explode into fits of rage. And although this may be true, there are some much worse side effects that result from steroid abuse. The type of steroids that are often misused are called anabolic androgenic steroids, which is also abbreviated as AAS. These are the types of steroids that people take to increase their metabolism and build larger muscles. AAS is typically a synthetic form of testosterone, but females and males produce testosterone naturally. It's one of the hormones in the body responsible for growth, and in males, testosterone signals the body to develop male characteristics during puberty. In women, testosterone also plays an important role in growth and development. However, it's present in much lower quantities in females than males. People have found that by using AAS to trick the body into thinking there is testosterone present, it speeds up the growth of muscles. This is by no means a healthy process, and although it can create the desired results of muscle growth, abusing anabolic androgenic steroids can have some serious consequences. So, what actually happens to your body if you take these types of steroids? Well, muscle mass will certainly increase, but everything else that'll happen should make you think twice before pumping your body full of AAS. Performance-enhancing drugs such as anabolic androgenic steroids are banned in most sports and competitions. Each year, athletes who are caught using steroids are fined heavily and forced to forfeit their right to compete. Therefore, it seems crazy to use steroids as the risks far outweigh the gains, yet it still happens all the time. Imagine you're an athlete who's obsessed with gaining bigger muscles so that you can be stronger and faster than your competitors. You train hard but hit a plateau, so you decide to take steroids to enhance your performance. After every workout session, your muscle fibers are stretched or torn apart. Your body naturally repairs any damage, which results in more muscle mass developing. But if you can trick your body into thinking it's also growing at the same time, muscle creation will increase exponentially. You pump iron all day to break your muscles down, then gulp down an energy drink full of steroids. These steroids circulate around your body and attach to your muscle cells. They signal the cells to produce more proteins to aid in the repair and strengthening of your muscles. Simultaneously, the steroids trigger cell division, causing the body to create more muscle cells. These processes can create a hormone imbalance, which may cause your body to start developing characteristics that it shouldn't, while also affecting your brain chemistry. Neither the growth of the muscles nor the unpleasant side effects develop right away. It may take weeks for these things to happen to your body, but it's estimated that anabolic androgenic steroids increase strength by around 5 to 20%, which is why people abuse AAS. Each time you take steroids, the cells in your body ramp up protein synthesis. This is important for muscle growth, but can also lead to the overdevelopment of certain male traits. This happens in both men and women who take anabolic androgenic steroids. Since your cells are working harder, they require more energy, which is why you experience an increase in appetite. The feeling of hunger is just your brain telling you that your body needs more nutrients to make more energy. Anabolic androgenic steroids also trigger the body to break down fat stores and use the fuel in them to increase muscle mass and promote growth. This causes body fat to decrease drastically in people who take steroids. The steroids also signal the body to create more red blood cells to aid in oxygen delivery around the body, so more energy can be made. These might all seem like good things, but it's what comes next that should worry you. Anabolic and androgenic steroids contain a combination of different chemicals. It's the ratio between the anabolic chemicals and the androgenic chemicals that determines what the steroid actually does to your body. Anabolic refers to chemicals that signal and promote muscle growth, while androgenic signifies the chemicals that promote the development of male sex traits. A steroid needs to contain both these properties to work effectively. For example, a steroid that only contains anabolic chemicals will not allow muscles to grow at the desired rate due to the fact that the other hormones and proteins are needed to facilitate the process that can only be triggered by androgenic chemicals. The ratio of androgenic to anabolic steroids can also cause a certain negative reaction in the body to occur. Using steroids increases your blood pressure and heart rate, as the body needs to circulate nutrients more quickly to fulfill the needs of the cells that are now producing more proteins and dividing more frequently. Unfortunately, both high blood pressure and heart rate can lead to heart disease or stroke. Therefore, the very thing the steroids are telling your body to do might also kill you. With a steroid that simulates testosterone, like with many anabolic androgenic steroids, there are some mental side effects as well. One of the byproducts of high levels of testosterone, especially in males, is that they can become aggressive and prone to mood swings. Again, this is due to an imbalance in chemical levels as a direct result of the steroid stimulating protein synthesis, among other cellular processes. The new proportions of biochemicals in the body affect the neural pathways and the composition of the chemicals in your brain. When these symptoms are taken to the extreme, it can cause you to lose control of rational thought and lash out in aggressive ways. This has come to be known as roid rage. There also seems to be a correlation between steroid use and body image disorders. The chemical imbalance caused by anabolic androgenic steroids might distort your view of your own body and push you to work out more to lose fat you don't have and gain more muscle. This is a vicious cycle, because if your brain is telling you that you don't look good and that your body should be more muscular, you'll likely take more steroids in order to reach an unobtainable body image. This leads to steroid abuse and is relatively common for people who use AAS without consulting their doctor. In these circumstances, steroids are not just messing with your biochemical processes, they've also become an addictive drug. Anabolic androgenic steroids themselves might not be classified as addictive, but what they do to your brain chemistry can make you crave them as if they were a drug you can't get enough of. While you gain muscle and the biochemical processes in your body are altered due to the steroids, other dangerous side effects are occurring. The liver filters blood while also balancing nutrients and metabolizing certain chemicals, such as the complex molecules found in steroids. When you take steroids, it forces your liver to work overtime to break down the chemicals in the drugs and the byproducts generated by the increased levels of protein synthesis happening around your body. Protein synthesis, like most cellular processes, generates waste, which also needs to be broken down by the liver. What this means is that steroids overwork the liver. People who abuse steroids never allow their liver to rest or recover, which leads to complications or liver failure later on. This is when steroids become life-threatening. It doesn't really matter if anabolic androgenic steroids give you larger muscles if your liver fails and you die. There are also other more noticeable side effects of taking anabolic androgenic steroids. Females might start growing hair on their faces where they normally wouldn't. Their voice might deepen while their breast size decreases. Other changes, such as an enlarged clitoris and irregular menstrual cycle, also occur. All of these side effects are a direct result of the chemical and hormone imbalances that happen within the body as a result of taking anabolic androgenic steroids. For males, there are some much more strange physical side effects. Abuse of anabolic androgenic steroids can cause gynecomastia. This is a condition in males where the breast gland tissue increases due to an imbalance in the hormones estrogen and testosterone. When this happens, breasts grow in size. Gynecomastia usually affects both breasts, but sometimes only causes one to grow extra tissue. Either way, this condition does not provide more upper body strength and is therefore not the desired result of most people using steroids. Although most anabolic androgenic steroids mimic the hormone testosterone in some way, they are not always a perfect substitute. In fact, abuse of steroids can actually lead to hypogonadism, which is a condition that causes the testes in males and ovaries in females to stop or produce very small amounts of sex hormones such as estrogen and testosterone. When this happens in males, it can cause the testicles to shrink. In both sexes, it can render the person infertile. Again, this is a perfect example of how steroids can produce big muscles but with consequences. Is risking the ability to have future offspring worth increasing your muscle mass and becoming stronger for a brief period of time? For some, it is. But for many younger athletes who start taking steroids, they don't know the risks or consequences these drugs have on their bodies later in life. Some of the most severe consequences of using anabolic androgenic steroids are the long-term health effects they have. In order to build bigger muscles, your body needs to increase hemoglobin production along with a number of red blood cells to deliver more oxygen to your cells. This oxygen is then used to create different proteins and energy. However, increased levels of blood cells and hemoglobin can thicken your blood and increase your chances of having a heart attack even after you stop taking the steroids. Anabolic androgenic steroids are also known to have long-term effects on your cholesterol levels. Research shows that these steroids can reduce your HDL cholesterol while raising your LDL cholesterol. Basically, it increases bad cholesterol overall throughout the body. Again, this has nasty consequences for your heart and can lead to several other complications. The use of steroids to increase muscle size and strength is just not a healthy alternative to working out and eating a well-balanced diet. Athletes and bodybuilders will take steroids to gain an advantage over their competition, but at a great cost to their bodies. If you take anabolic androgenic steroids, there's a good chance you'll not only experience unintended physical side effects, but your brain, heart, and liver will suffer as well. The short-term gains are never worth the long-term damage that anabolic androgenic steroids can cause. That's why they should only be taken when prescribed by medical professionals and in specific circumstances. We've come a long way in understanding how our bodies work. However, there are still mysteries yet to be explained. Why do you yawn? What is the appendix actually for? Why do only men find farts funny? We're going to talk about 20 things your body does that we don't know why, and as we go through our list, things are going to get stranger and stranger. Starting with number 20, we're going to talk about boobs. There are a few attributes for male and female breasts that we don't quite understand. For example, all mammals have some form of breasts. This is because mammals tend to take care of their young after they're born. Breasts are effective delivery devices for feeding a young infant. However, only human females have enlarged breasts even when they're not rearing offspring. This is extremely strange because in the evolutionary scheme of things, having constantly large breasts can be an inconvenience, get in the way, and may even send the wrong signals. Most people think that the permanently large breasts of human females actually attract men. However, in many cultures, men do not find large breasts attractive, so this seems unlikely. Another theory is that the constantly large breasts of human females may have to do with the large brains of human offspring. It's thought that the hormones created in the breasts promote fat storage that gets released into the milk when the mother breastfeeds, making the milk extra nutritious. This has not been proven yet, so as of right now, we have no idea why human females have enlarged breasts throughout their life. And speaking of boobs, number 19 has to do with male breasts. We don't fully understand why males have nipples at all. Think about it. Nipples are used as a way for babies to suckle milk from the mother's breasts. Since males can't produce milk, there's no reason for them to have nipples. All the male nipple really does is confuse the baby if they start sucking on it and nothing comes out. Hopefully you're still excited to learn more about what we don't know about our own bodies. But if at this point you're yawning, then you're already ahead of the game. Number 18 on our list is, why do we yawn? We don't know. We do know that yawning tends to occur when we're tired or bored. We might start to yawn when we see others doing it. In fact, I bet since you've heard the word yawn a few times already, you might even be doing this mysterious act right now. And if not, I bet you're definitely holding in a yawn. But what's the purpose of yawning? Originally, scientists thought yawning was a way to get more oxygen to the brain and therefore make the body less tired. But this does not seem to be the case. A more recent research might suggest that yawning is a way to cool off the brain. The yawn circulates cooler blood up to the brain to help lower the temperature in the skull. This is still being researched and many scientists disagree with the idea, but at least it is one explanation for why we yawn. Other scientists suggest yawning is a form of communication. This is why when one person yawns, people around them start to as well. Long ago, in humans' ancient past, yawning may have been a way to signal to the group that it was time to rest. If everyone was yawning and felt tired, then it was time to stop. There is always safety in numbers, and contagious yawns may have been a way to keep the group together. Number 17 is another form of contagious behavior that we don't quite understand: laughing. We laugh when something is funny, or maybe if we're extremely uncomfortable, but why do we do this? Laughing may have the same root cause as yawning, in the sense that it's a way to make sure a group of people are on the same page. It has been hypothesized that the reason we laugh and that laughter is contagious because humans are social creatures. We want to fit in with a group, and laughter may be a form of empathy to connect with others in a social setting. When we laugh, our brain releases endorphins, which makes us feel at ease. So, we don't know exactly why we laugh, but it makes us feel good, especially in social groups. However, this does not explain why we sometimes laugh when we're all alone, or why you might just get the giggles when you think of a past funny experience. Maybe laughing is just a way for your body to boost morale and make itself feel better. Number 16 is an action your body does that is connected to your emotions. You may be a little embarrassed when we tell you about this one. When you blush, your face turns red. We know how it turns red, but we have no idea why it happens. The reddening of the face that's connected to blushing happens when the capillaries near the surface of the skin expand and let more blood rush through the area. However, this does not explain why our body makes this happen. One reason might be to serve as an identifying factor for liars. If someone in your social group is lying, they might blush, and if they get caught, it could cause them to blush even more. It's been suggested that most likely reason for blushing occurs as a social cue. Interestingly, research has shown that blushing is a positive behavior in social interactions. Maybe this is because people who blush may be considered more trustworthy since they have such an obvious tell if they're lying. Charles Darwin even called blushing the most peculiar and most human of all expressions, because even though we can explain how blushing occurs, we really have no idea why our bodies do it. This brings us to something our body does that seems so simple, yet is shrouded in mystery. Number 15 on our list is, why do we sleep? At a basic level, we might just assume our body needs sleep so we can rest. But our body can rest without falling asleep. So why do we sleep at all? Almost every animal sleeps in some form, whether it's short naps or long stretches at night. This process seems important to all animals, but why is it necessary? When you think about it, falling asleep is really dangerous if you live somewhere there are predators trying to hunt and eat you. When you sleep, you're unaware and vulnerable. So it would stand to reason that natural selection would eventually get rid of this dangerous process, but that hasn't been the case. Most scientists think sleep is a way to recharge the brain and allow the body to build up stores of energy. It may also be a way for us to transfer information and memories into different parts of the brain. It's even been suggested that sleep is necessary to bring brain cells back to a baseline state so that the brain doesn't overload. However, the fact remains that we are not entirely sure why we sleep. And for number 14, we're going to take things one step further. Why do you dream? If sleep may be used to reset your brain cells, why does your brain then create vivid stories for you to experience while you sleep? Again, we don't actually know why our bodies do this. It has been proposed that dreams are the way your brain regulates mood or catalogs the events of the day. On the other hand, some scientists suggest that dreams are just an accidental side effect of your neurons firing. We spend up to a third of our lives sleeping and dreaming, yet we do not know actually why. For number 13, we're going to talk about how weak you are. You may be offended, but it's not just you, it's all humans. The human body is surprisingly weak when compared to our closest relatives. If you put a chimpanzee and a human next to each other, you would see more similarities than differences. We share over 98% of our DNA with chimps, so on a biological level, we are absolutely more similar than different. But when we look at the strength of a chimp versus that of a human, we are so much weaker. Our bodies have most of the same muscles, but chimps' bodies are 3 times stronger than ours. And the crazy thing is, we just don't know why we are such weaklings. It may have to do with the way our muscles attach to each other. In the wild, an 85-pound chimp was seen easily snapping branches from an ironwood tree with their fingertips. However, when a human tried to do the same thing using both of their hands, they couldn't break that very same type of branch. It is still a mystery why our bodies are so embarrassingly weak when compared to our closest relatives. And talking about hands, number 12 has to do with our body having a peculiar trait in these appendages. It is unclear why humans have a dominant hand at all. The vast majority of humans are right-handed, but why? And what does that say about left-handed people? Many scientists think it has something to do with the speech center of the brain. This is found in the left hemisphere, which controls the right side of the body. There may be a connection between speech and having a dominant hand, but other research shows that not all right-handed people control their speech from the left hemisphere. So what it comes down to is we have no idea why our body has a dominant hand. There's also no explanation for number 11 on our list. Why do we have fingerprints? Yes, they are unique, and yes, they can be used to identify someone, but what function do they serve? For a long time, we thought that our fingerprints helped us grip things, but this has been shown to not be the case. It's been suggested that maybe the fingerprints allow us to have more sensitivity when touching things, but this has not been proven yet. As of right now, we'll just have to accept that our hands are still somewhat of a mystery to us. As we get into the top 10 things we don't understand about your body, things are going to get pretty out there. You are definitely special, and besides fingerprints, there are other differences between you and every other human on the planet. For example, why do humans have so many different eye colors? We know that the color of your eyes is determined by your genes and the pigments that are created by the cells in your eyes. But why do we need blues, greens, browns, or a combination of these colors? Maybe it's just to make our eyes pretty. But we really don't know why eye color is so varied. This goes for number 9 on our list as well. Why do we have different blood types? It would be much more convenient for doctors and medical professionals if we all had the same blood type, but this is not the case. It is true that some blood types are more resistant to certain infections than others. Therefore, one type of blood may have been beneficial in a certain part of the world and a different type might have been better adapted to another. Since humans evolved in Africa and spread across the globe, different blood types may have been a byproduct of the process of natural selection for different environments, but we aren't 100% sure. Continuing with your special characteristics, number 8 and 7 have to do with the hair, or lack thereof, on your body. Hair color varies greatly, but there is something else about hair we don't quite understand. Why do we need it on our bodies at all? Hair on the head and face definitely serve a purpose, but what about body hair? We do not grow enough body hair to make a significant difference in temperature regulation. At one point in our distant past, humans had much more body hair, which would keep us warm or help in cooling us off, but today it's hard to find someone with enough body hair to make that much of a difference. If you lost all of your hair tomorrow, you wouldn't miss it. Well, at least not in terms of any biological reasons. So we don't exactly know why we still grow body hair. This brings us inside of your body for number 6 on the list. You have trillions of little creatures living inside you right now. In fact, the microbes in your body may outnumber your own cells about 10 to 1. That's crazy. We know that some of the bacteria in your body helps you with digestion and other life functions, but this is just a small percentage of the whole. So why does your body allow trillions of microbes to live within it? We don't know. The study of the human microbiome is a relatively new field, and we are still learning. But for right now, you're home to an entire ecosystem of microbes, and we have no idea why most of them are there. And now we hope you're ready for number 5, which is a little gross when you think about it, so hopefully you didn't just eat a big meal. We don't actually know how all those microbes got inside you in the first place. You were definitely born with some, and you pick up others through food, water, and even the air you breathe. But everyone's microbiome is different. So how does your body gather its unique group of microbes? No one really knows. However, when you sleep with someone, you are probably swapping more than just pleasure and bodily fluids. You're also exchanging microbes. Think about that next time you hook up with someone. You probably heard of number 4 on our list. It's commonly thought that your appendix serves no purpose. You may even be in the 1 in 15 people who have had their appendix removed. So why does your body even have the organ? Some scientists think it's just a vestigial structure left over from our evolutionary ancestors. Others believe that it still serves a function in the development of the fetus, or is useful for producing certain proteins and hormones that could be beneficial to our bodies. But the fact that you can live without it begs the question, why is it even there? We honestly don't know why. This brings us to the end of our list. Our last 3 unexplained phenomena in your body come from the same place, the brain. To start us off, we have no idea how the brain actually works. We know there are trillions of neural connections that work together to keep you alive and allow you to watch the insanely interesting videos put out by the infographic show. But really, we don't know how the brain actually functions as a whole. The brain is made up of atoms and molecules just like everything else in the universe, yet it is the only thing we know of that can control a body, think, and even dream. Number 2 on our list is that we don't know how your brain allows you to react and move with ease. No one can explain how your brain is able to move billions of cells in an instant. Also, how do the chemical reactions that keep you alive and moving on a day-to-day basis even occur? Doing something as simple as typing a few words into a computer requires massive amounts of signals from your brain to your fingers. You also need your eyes to see and send information about where the buttons are. All of that information is fed to the brain, which must then interpret it and send out new signals in a split second. We have no idea how your brain can make your body do exactly what you want in only tenths of a second. Finally, we're at the end of our list of things your body does that we just don't understand, and we're going to get pretty metaphysical. What makes you, you? Well, your DNA is responsible for your traits, but your consciousness is responsible for who you are and your personality. How does your body create consciousness? We have absolutely no idea. It probably comes from the brain, but we aren't even 100% sure of that. You could go down a deep, dark rabbit hole trying to figure out what consciousness is, where it comes from, and why your body creates it, or you could just chalk it up to being something else your body does that we don't yet understand. They can cause job pain, skin issues, unexpected injuries, and even emergency surgeries. They're your organs, and they can be a pain. But at least they're working hard to keep you alive, right? Not exactly. The human body has a surprising number of vestigial organs, body parts left over from an earlier point in evolution that no longer serve a purpose. Here are some of those organs and body parts that really aren't pulling their weight anymore. Let's start with one that's most obvious in babies. Have you ever touched a little baby's palm, only to be surprised when the baby immediately tightens its grip on your finger? It's weird that this is one of the first controlled motions the baby exhibits, or so it seems. It's actually a reflex, stimulated by tendons in the palm, and it can even be seen in utero as early as 16 weeks into gestation. It continues until the baby starts developing fine motor skills several months after being born. So, why is this such a key reflex for infants? Biologists have been studying it for a while and believed it originated in primate species with more fur, like chimpanzees. The reflex allows the infant to grip onto the mother's fur without being directly carried, so the mom can forage. The hunter-gatherer lifestyle is mostly gone for humans, and mom is more likely to carry the baby in a stroller these days. So all this reflex does is make it easier for the baby to grab onto your hair. This next vestigial trait is the bane of teenagers everywhere. Normally, teeth can be a good thing. You keep them clean, and in exchange, they let you tear into some corn on the cob. But some teeth are more trouble than they're worth. The wisdom teeth are the last teeth to emerge, usually coming in during the teen years and early adulthood. Most people have 4 of them, but some have fewer or none. When they come out, there can be trouble. They can be impacted, cause pain and infections. And if they do emerge, they can crowd other teeth and be hard to clean. More often than not, wisdom teeth get pulled. So why does our jaw even bother? Wisdom teeth are large, powerful molars, and in the old days, having more molars was helpful. After all, the average primordial human diet consisted of raw meat and tough fibrous plants. You needed some power to rip through those. Now you don't really need that jaw force to get through your Big Mac and fries. Not only are the wisdom teeth less necessary, but the average size of the human jaw has shrunk, meaning no room for them to come in comfortably. For this next vestigial organ, it's all in the wrist. Try touching the pads of your 4th finger and thumb. Does a line appear when you flex your wrist? If so, you're only one of roughly 85% of humans who still have the palmaris longus muscle. This body part is so useless that a lot of people have evolved out of having it altogether, and those who do have it won't get much use out of it. While it can be found in many of our common relatives like gorillas and chimpanzees, they also don't seem to have much use for it. So is it actually good for anything? Biologists suspect that it was used more before opposable thumbs evolved in the primate world, and it just kinda stuck around since then. The only difference between those who have it and those who don't is that those without it have slightly lower pinch strength, but the effect is so minor that it's frequently removed and used in those who need tendon grafts in another part of their body. This next one might just give you goosebumps. The body has a lot of different muscles, but these are among the smallest in the human body. They are the erector pili muscles, and they control the movement of the hair follicles, and that means they can make your hair stand on end. They are most commonly reflected in goosebumps, those weird little skin bumps that you get when you're too cold or too nervous about something. So these muscles are definitely still working, but they're not all that helpful and can be more annoying than anything. But in other animals, it's a very different story. Humans don't have too much body hair, so there isn't much for the erector pili muscles to do. But in animals with a much thicker fur coating, having their hair stand on end can be helpful. If they're moving into a tight space, their hair extending can help warn them of danger before it hits their skin. And if they're trying to scare an enemy or impress a potential mate, they can puff out their hair to look more impressive. Now that might be useful when that one guy cuts in line at the coffee shop, but alas, humans aren't built that way. And it's not the only area of the body where animals have the edge on us. ears. Have you ever watched your cat or a dog when they notice something? One of the first things that happens is their ears start twitching toward the source of the noise. It's cute and should immediately be posted on YouTube, but it's also useful to them as they can point their ears toward the source of their surprise and hear better. They use the tiny muscles called the auricular muscles to manipulate their ears, and humans have 3 of these muscles too. Our versions are much less useful. 2 of the 3 auricular muscles in humans are pretty useless, but one, the anterior auricular muscle, has a subtle effect. It can draw part of the upper ear up and forward. The human ear has evolved to provide a pretty good listening experience regardless of where you're standing, so we don't need to shift our ears with these muscles. However, being able to wiggle your ears is a pretty good party trick. This next organ is either the stuff of life or just some extra skin. It's one thing virtually all mammals have in common: nipples. In female mammals, they're attached to breast tissue that provides vital milk for their young. Some animals have long rows of nipples, but humans only have 2, and all humans have 2, even though men don't really seem to need them. Male nipples are usually flat, not attached to milk-producing organs, and seem to provide no evolutionary purpose. So why haven't they been eliminated by evolution yet? Some schoolyard bullies would probably say because to do so would eliminate the purple nurple, but scientists sent them to detention and provided an alternative theory. Males and females start from the same genetic base, and the foundation of the nipples in the fetus actually comes before the point in development where it's determined whether the future baby will be a boy or a girl. These remnants of fetal development don't provide a vital function, but they do hold a bundle of sensitive nerves that can cause arousal. A lot of vestigial organs are about protection, even when it's not needed anymore. It's a weird little quirk of the eyes. What's that little lump of tissue in the corner where it meets your nose? Not only does it seem to not fulfill any purpose, but it's one of the first places in the eye to get irritated by allergies or smoke. The only use it seems to have is making your eyes water more and to make it more obvious when your eyes are getting red. In animals, though, it's a very different story. Are you ready to meet your third eyelid? Humans have 2 eyelids, the more flexible top one and the protective bottom one. But many animals, including birds and reptiles, have a third layer called the nictitating membrane that can be drawn over the eye for extra protection. Few mammals still have it, but they do have the base it evolved from, that little corner of eye tissue. Only one primate, a small loris from the rainforests of West Africa, still kept this unique eye feature functional. Some organs come from a much older primal time. The human body has a number of sense organs that control our senses of sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. But one smell organ isn't what it used to be. Jacobson's organ, or the vomeronasal organ, is a tiny organ located in the nasal cavity and can be found in all snakes and lizards. Some mammals, like dogs, cats, and pigs, have it too, and humans often have a vestigial organ based on it. But don't get too excited, it's not good for much. Wait, why do the animals get all the secret smells? Jacobson's organ is designed to detect specific chemical compounds, particularly those coming from predators and prey. It's also useful for detecting sex pheromones from potential mates. In other words, it's useful for wild animals who live their lives by primal functions of hunting, being hunted, and looking to reproduce. Humans haven't been living that way for a very long time, and so this organ is out of work. Just because an organ isn't useful doesn't mean it can't be painful. It takes up much of the lower legs and can be the bane of runners everywhere. The plantaris muscle. This long superficial muscle is the longest tendon in the human body and runs all the way from the knee joint to the heel, and for all that length its function is weak flexion of the ankle joint and the knee. It might also help the central nervous system perceive where the foot is positioned, but its overall function to the body is minimal, so it may cause more trouble than it's worth. The plantaris muscle is susceptible to injury caused by too much pressure on one leg. Tennis, basketball, and soccer players often suffer ruptures that can take some time to heal, although the injury to the muscle doesn't cause long-term damage to physical ability that tearing other tendons or muscles can. The tendon can be removed and used for tendon transplants, and scientists believe it's more useful in other primates who commonly grip things with their feet. This next organ might be funny to say, but it's not essential for life. Spleen! This organ resembles a large lymph node and mostly works as a blood filter. Its name comes from ancient Greece, and it removes old red blood cells, stores blood, and recycles iron into the blood. It also provides a home for lymphocytes packed with antibodies, which boosts the immune system. It's a helpful organ and can be found in all vertebrates, but it's also delicate. So, what happens if something goes wrong? The spleen is prone to rupture when injured and usually has to be removed. Immune system disorders can also affect the spleen's function, and if that happens, don't worry, the body has you covered. There can be some deficits in the immune system as a result, but the liver takes over most of the spleen's function. People without a spleen can live a long, healthy life and probably have to deal with chuckles when they tell people which organ they're missing. But it's more useful than this next organ. It's all in the name. The appendix. It's a small tube attached near the colon, and it's one of the most common causes of early childhood surgeries. If the appendix gets inflamed or infected, it can cause severe stomach pains. If left untreated, it can burst, a life-threatening condition that sends dangerous bacteria through the body. Today, the appendix can be removed safely and quickly, but in the past, it was a common cause of death. And for all that trouble, what does the appendix actually do? Well, for a long time, people thought the answer was nothing. It was just a random body part that didn't help until it randomly tried to kill you. Today, scientists believe nothing is without its purpose, and the appendix is essentially a storage tube packed with beneficial gut bacteria that help your digestive health. It's useful, but not necessary. Millions of people have had their appendix removed, and none of them seem to have any long-term health issues. Finally, here's something that's a remnant of a much older time: the tailbone, or coccyx, probably the most annoying bone in the body. The last part of the vertebral column in apes and humans. It's a pointy bone that you don't usually notice until you fall on it the wrong way. Then it reminds you of its existence with a painful jolt. If fractured, it can cause difficulty walking for a long time and force you to wander around with a donut-shaped cushion to sit on. Awkward. But ages ago, it served a very different purpose. The coccyx is a short, stubby thing in humans today, but in our ancestors it was longer, a lot longer. The coccyx is our vestigial tail, the last trace of when we were swinging around in the trees and using our tails to hold onto branches. Today it's mostly useless, although it does provide attachments to various other muscles and tendons in the area. But it's a far cry from its former self. It would be kind of useful to have a tail you could hold a cup of coffee with. So long, soda. You made the decision. You're quitting sugar. So the question is, when can you expect to see the benefits? What happens when you quit eating sugar? If you listen to just about everyone on a diet, not to mention mom when she wouldn't let you eat that sweet snack before dinner, sugar is the root of all evil. It's full of empty calories that get turned into fat, and it's incredibly addictive. While it might not create a true chemical dependency like both legal and illegal drugs do, it certainly does well at hooking people. And so it's the first step that many people take when they're going on a diet, cutting out sugar. But this is easier said than done. The first thing to remember is that sugar is basically everywhere, including in many healthy foods like sweet potatoes and basically all fruits. Most people who cut sugar out don't eliminate it 100% from their diet. They mostly just remove added sugar from their meals, which cuts down the calorie intake massively. And it turns out that eating too much sugar can have a major impact on your body. Mom was right about a few major things. For one thing, too much sugar increases the risk of you developing dental cavities. This can largely be alleviated with careful brushing and flossing, but the same can't be said for other factors. More sugar means more calories, and that means higher rates of weight gain and obesity. That leads to other serious conditions, including a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and chronic joint conditions. All of this adds up to a lower life expectancy, and some studies show even a connection between excess sugar and memory problems. Does sugar make kids hyper like mom always insisted? Maybe, but there's also some evidence that ADHD symptoms are aggravated by sugar consumption, which raises the question, why does anyone eat sugar? Well, the first reason is definitely it tastes good. But the other main reason is the other main symptom you should be looking out for: sugar addiction and withdrawals. Scientists differ on whether sugar truly has addictive properties, but they do agree that patients have a very hard time getting off the sweet stuff. They find it hard to moderate their sugar consumption. They crave more and more, and it takes more sugary foods to satisfy that craving every time. And that means the first days without sugar will be the hardest. Enough of that. It's time to kick the habit and power through the worst days. And these days might be seriously uncomfortable at first, because sugar withdrawal can be a beast. It's not a high-intensity withdrawal like alcohol, nicotine, or hard drugs, but they have many similarities. People dealing with sugar withdrawal report feeling very hungry, experiencing fatigue and headaches, and even finding it hard to concentrate due to brain fog. But they won't be the only ones impacted, as sugar withdrawals tend to lead to mood swings and a shorter temper. Talk about being hangry. So, are cookies really causing all this? Yes and no. Scientists have struggled to figure out what causes sugar addiction, and recent studies show that high-sugar foods trigger the release of brain chemicals like dopamine and endorphins. This means that the body might not be getting addicted to sugar per se, but to the chemical reactions that occur due to the pleasure of eating. Additionally, eating sugar changes the gut microbiome, creating a boost of bad gut bacteria that eat off sugar. Cutting out sugar might cause a mass die-off, which can cause the minor physical symptoms that come with sugar withdrawal. But power through it, it'll be worth it. Withdrawing from sugar long-term basically becomes a sugar detox, and in severe cases it can lead to other symptoms like insomnia, chills, and nausea or vomiting. The intensity of these symptoms will be worse in the first week and can come in waves over the first 4 weeks. after which your body will have adjusted to its new chemistry and microbiome. But while physical withdrawal from sugar won't be a problem anymore, other elements can hang on longer. Mood changes and lack of focus can persist, depending on how psychologically reliant someone was on sweet treats. These can't be measured, and every person is different. But if someone is dealing with sugar withdrawal for longer than expected, psychological issues might be to blame. But the end is getting closer and closer. Sugar withdrawals can begin very quickly after you cut back or eliminate sugar, and they come on quickly. To make this easier, experts advise you don't combine cutting out sugar with quitting anything else. This isn't the time to knock out all those resolutions all at once. It also isn't best to try this during any stressful time, so go ahead and enjoy those donuts during finals week. You can start your diet after. The first week is by far the worst, and you'll probably feel hungry and tired for most of it, so take it easy. Less intense symptoms persist for 3 to 4 weeks, at which point you can start to enjoy the upside of quitting sugar, and those effects will start coming in fast and furious. The first thing to note is you'll be consuming a lot less calories. Sugar is everywhere, and it's very easy to eat or drink 200 calories of mostly sugar without even thinking about it. This doesn't mean you'll be cutting sugar out of your diet completely. A piece of fruit is a normal part of a healthy diet, but you'll be surprised by how many foods sugar is hiding in. Bread, yogurt, tomato sauce, just to name a few. If you cut those out and look for alternatives, you'll be surprised by how fast the calories drop, and in many cases how fast the scale shows results. And your body is gonna work to respond. Your body chemistry will realign itself pretty quickly when you cut out sugar, with your cholesterol and triglycerides dropping. The latter's directly related to sugar. Studies show that even at the same weight, people who got less than 20% of their calories from sugar have lower triglyceride levels. When you replace those added sugars with higher nutrient foods, your body starts responding even before the number on the scale drops. And that's not the only place where your body is going to be thanking you. Even if you brush and floss regularly, it's hard to get rid of every remnant of sugar that remains in your mouth. Mouthwash can help, but cutting out sugar will result in less bacteria in the mouth, which results in better tooth and gum health. That means you'll be able to flash a bright smile without any hesitation, and your dentist will probably praise you, even if it means he gets less work. And this has another benefit as well. The lack of bacteria in your mouth means your breath will smell a lot better, which that special someone might definitely appreciate. And one area of change might be even more visible. Have you been having trouble with breakouts, acne, pimples, and other skin ailments? A recent study in Dermatological Digest indicates that these conditions can be exacerbated by a high-sugar diet. While this isn't the primary issue, skincare and keeping your pores clean will have the biggest effect. A low-sugar diet full of nutrient-dense foods can help keep your skin looking fresh and clean when combined with regular skincare. And you might be able to show off that new look more often because you'll be feeling a lot better. Could sugar be making you sick? Not exactly, but it might have been playing a role in why you've been dealing with so many colds, stomach viruses, and other ailments. Sugar can lead to chronic inflammation in your body, which is an overreaction from the immune system. This lowers your natural immune system response, so your body winds up falling prey to a lot more minor bacteria and viruses over the year. And those illnesses also might last a lot longer as your body struggles to fend them off. The cause of this seems to be white blood cells, which aren't as able to fend off bad bacteria for up to 5 hours after eating a lot of sugar. And of course, for those struggling with diabetes or prediabetes, cutting back on the sugar can reduce the symptoms or even eliminate the disease. And you might find yourself feeling younger. That's not just a trick. Is a lack of sugar the trick to finding the fountain of youth? Not exactly, but you'll quickly find out it has some serious benefits for your look and your body. Your skin will be less likely to break out, of course, but the amazing thing is that cutting sugar will also slightly reduce wrinkles. The culprit is a natural process called glycation, which occurs when sugar consumption affects the production of collagen and elastin in the body. This makes the skin less taut, which leads to sagging and wrinkles. Combine that with the inflammation related to sugar, and a high-sugar diet can result in people looking a lot older than they normally. So, no matter the age, cutting out sugar might just result in liking what you see in the mirror a lot more, and that youthful energy can show itself off in all sorts of ways. Is sugar ruining your sex life? It might be possible. Cutting back on sugar provides more energy, and that includes increasing your libido. So you're probably more likely to want to have sex, and your body will help you along. Women who cut back on sugar find their sexual hormones are more in sync and give them more energy and desire. Men, meanwhile, find a much more dramatic effect. The insulin spike caused by consuming sugar can cause erectile dysfunction. so cutting out sugar might be the most effective way to get your groove back. And you'll probably be exhausted after, but there's good news there too. Few things make it harder to concentrate and live the kind of life you want than a lack of sleep, and nothing is more frustrating than lying awake in bed or waking up after only 2 hours and trying to get back to sleep before the alarm rings. Well, sugar might be a culprit there too, especially if you can't resist those late-night sweet snacks. Sugar before bedtime can throw sleep hormones out of whack, increase stress hormones, and cause night sweats that can lead to you waking up less than refreshed. A few days of refraining from added sugar and your hormones will be back in sync, and it'll be easier than ever to fall asleep and stay asleep. It all comes together in one big picture. Reducing sugar or cutting excess sugar from your diet doesn't just improve your physical health, it improves your mental health. Physical ailments can make issues like depression and anxiety worse. Reducing those, combined with the effects of getting those hormones back in sync, can make it much easier to get mental health back where it should be. Those first few days and even weeks while cutting sugar can be challenging for those struggling with mental health, but it's like running through headwinds. It makes it all the more dramatic when they let up and you can feel the clear air on the other side. But that doesn't mean it'll all be clear sailing. Are there any negatives to quitting sugar? Maybe, but it depends on what you're planning to do next. Sugar might not have any nutritional benefits on its own, but it does have one advantage: energy. So replacing sugar with healthier alternatives might not impact you too much if you don't engage in much physical activity. But that could be a very different story if you're an athlete. Trying to maintain a high level of activity while on a sugar crash might be very difficult, and it might be a while before you find your new energy level. There's a reason why marathon runners carbo load before a race, and so many athletes drink sugary sports drinks. The energy boost might justify the extra calories, and that craving won't totally go away. A sugar detox will remove the physical urge to consume sugar, but it won't remove the temptation. No matter how long it's been since your detox, the odds are that donut will still look pretty good, and that cold soda will sound refreshing on a hot summer day. The good news is, sugar isn't a narcotic. You can't fall off the wagon in a traditional sense. You won't take one bite of cake and immediately find that you need to take 10 more and go on a sugar bender. In fact, your body might remind you why you quit in the first place. The reason quitting sugar is so hard is because the body becomes attuned to it and notices the absence all the more keenly. The same will happen when you quit. Your body won't be used to large amounts of sugar anymore, and a binge might result in you feeling a little queasy and fatigued while your body processes the sugar overload. And the odds are good that this won't make you want to go back for another session, so your body won't get used to overloading on sugar again. Much like you trained your body to want sugar, you've trained it to not want it. And if you do go overboard one day, it doesn't change your body chemistry in any long-term way. Odds are you won't have to go through any withdrawal symptoms again after falling off the wagon, unless it becomes a repeated pattern that starts the cycle over. And the odds are, after looking in the mirror and seeing the changes, as well as seeing all the new energy you have, that donut won't look nearly as appealing. What about some other vices? Check out what happens to your body when you stop drinking alcohol for a look at that most common habit people try to quit. Or watch what happens to your body when you stop drinking coffee, minute by minute.